live. All right. We are live here today, and I got a new chair and it clicks a lot. Sorry about all that. We're live today, and we're doing something kind of a little bit different today. So we're gonna be doing this series over the next couple of weeks, the next month or so of basically why your favorite team's gonna suck. Breaking it up into 2 episodes, and then after that, we'll probably go through and be a little bit nicer and be like, "This is why your team's going to be good."
Big facts.
And by the way, just to be absolutely clear, we're going to roast on the Bengals and Saints too. I mean, this is the AFC episode, so we'll talk about reasons why the Bengals.
I'm free for one more day. I'm free for one more day.
One more week.
Whatever.
Yeah. So we will talk about why the Saints are going to suck. Jim's already doing it apparently. Well, he's not really giving reasons. He's just saying it's going to happen. But
what's good, Jory? How you doing? All right, now what you guys doing?
I was just saying we're Jim's already in here talking about how the Saints are going to suck this year.
Yeah,
that's next week though. That's not you're a little early, Jim. We're going to talk about that next week. This week we're going to talk about all the AFC teams, and we are going to get to the Bengals. We're probably going to get to the Bengals relatively early because alphabetical order.
All right. Happy birthday, Jerry. All right, now.
Yeah. So first things first. I want to just because it's such a big thing, even though it's not football related. But how about the Knicks?
I hate my life.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of y'all were sad that Stephen A. Smith might be happy because his team won. But I'm happy that like Jerry Seinfeld and Jon Stewart are happy. And I'm not every Knicks fan is Stephen A. Smith.
Dude.
And also my favorite teacher from high school is a Knicks fan.
Did you not see the videos?
No, I didn't. What happened in the videos?
Knicks
if it was from Stephen A. Smith, that is still my point.
I'm not talking about Stephen A. Smith.
Okay. What did
Knicks fans threw eggs at Victor Wembanyama's head. Knicks fans threatened to beat up a guy just for wearing a Spurs jersey. Then there was 30 Knicks fans jumping a Spurs fan. There was Knicks fans breaking cars. They are going crazy over there.
Yeah.
What is their problem?
Yeah. A lot of fan bases are crazy.
Teams like that, any success because they get one good championship run and now they're turning into Gotham.
I mean, I will say it's been such a long time since it's been such a meme that the Knicks are bad. So I think it's there's a lot of released feelings and catharsis going on, and I'm not surprised that people are having pretty intense reactions to it.
I guarantee you this: if the Pelicans win the NBA Finals, we will behave.
Okay, that's not.
We ain't beating up nobody.
I don't think that's the flex you think it is.
I think it's a big flex because we ain't gonna kill people over this.
I mean, that's a good thing. I just don't know if it's a big flex, but okay.
All right. Anyways.
All right. So, a stranger says he's not a ball through hoop guy. I'm not really an NBA guy, but I'm mostly not an NBA guy out of protest because until they bring back my Sonics, I'm just not gonna bother. And it sounds like they might bring back the Sonics, which is nice, but I haven't gotten any confirmation of that yet, so I'm still not really.
Not confirmed, fool.
And even if they come back, they're probably not going to be good for at least a few years. That's how expansion teams work.
Right.
So, but I would be happy to get my team back. But I growing up a Kentucky fan, I've definitely been indoctrinated into ball through hoop enjoyment. But I'm really more of a football guy than a basketball guy. I mean, it's not like baseball. I don't really. I've tried. I just can't get into baseball. With basketball, I can get into basketball. I just, I kind of think the NBA sucks.
Big facts.
Daniel Barry says, "Happy Sunday to you, Daniel Barry." All right, so
Slim South has entered the building. Yeah, what's up, Slim?
What's going on? So let's go ahead and dive in. So let's let's go ahead and get started with the division of the AFC champions. So, and I guess on that note, we can go ahead and get started with the Patriots. So, the best team, somehow, the best team to come out of the AFC last year was the New England Patriots. Why are they going to suck this year, Mikey?
Man, Patriots are going to suck because of this reason. Because their offense, right? I understand they got Drake May, but they're gonna suck because of them playmakers. Like, I understand they traded for AJ Brown, but AJ Brown, he's gonna be cancerous. Like, the Eagles traded him for a reason. He's gonna be so cancerous that he's gonna make Drake May hate throwing the ball to him, right? And then Drake May is not gonna throw the ball to AJ Brown no more, and AJ Brown's gonna punch Drake May in the face. And then AJ Brown gonna get suspended for 5 games, and the Patriots gonna lose all 5 of them games. And by the time he come back, he's still gonna hate everything. So yeah, that's why Patriots gonna suck.
Yeah, and so just to be clear to everybody, we're going over basically worst case scenarios for every team in the AFC. So basically, this is like, at the end of the season, if any of these teams do end up being bad, we're going to go back to this episode and we're going to be like, hey, did we get it right as to why that happened? So, it's like obviously all 16 teams this year can't suck. Like, some of them have to be good, but we're going to tell you why they're going to suck anyway.
Right.
Just in case they do.
And one of the teams that we say going to suck this year is going to play for a Super Bowl. So,
well, that's right. We're going to go through all 32 teams, and one of the teams that we say is going to win the Super Bowl. So,
right.
But anyway, as far as the Patriots go, there's no team is going to have more pressure on them and more eyes on them than the Patriots this year. I don't think, just because of everything that's kind of happened with them, both with them kind of like sort of coming out of nowhere last year, but also looking mighty fraudulent the whole time. And then with all the off-season drama with Mike Vrabel, and then they go trade for AJ Brown, who does seem to be like the next, major diva wide receiver in the NFL, if he isn't already there. And it pretty much every time a big moves like this happens with a diva wide receiver, they're not very good on their next team.
Big facts,
like AJ Brown was good for the Eagles, but like he wasn't a public diva nearly as much with the Titans, So typically when these guys go public with how much of a diva they are, the next NFL team they're on isn't very good. It doesn't turn out very well. Like AJ Brown with the Raiders, Chad Johnson with the Patriots. It's another fucking.
Do you mean Antonio Brown with the Raiders?
Well, who did I say?
You said AJ Brown.
I said AJ fucking. Yes, Antonio Brown. Thank you. Antonio Brown with the Raiders. Randy Moss with the Raiders, for that matter. Like I said, Chad Ochocinco or Chad John, because he changed his name back to Chad Johnson by then with the Patriots. It's just there's a long line, and it's like some of these guys, like who was I saying earlier? Antonio Brown is actually an interesting example because some of these guys go on to be better on their next team after they go to the team where they are bad at. Because like Antonio Brown didn't do a whole lot when he went from the Raiders to the Patriots, but he was better with the Patriots. And they went to Tampa Bay, and it looked like he was going to have somewhat of a career revival before he just totally, completely fucked off.
Right.
So I don't know, but like AJ Brown, I'm concerned about basically a live hand grenade being thrown into a locker room that could potentially already be on the verge of fracturing if things don't go perfect in the first cut. Like if they come out and struggle the first couple of games, I think the Patriots could just like implode basically.
Big facts.
Just because like you're gonna have a lot of tension and I think it's quite possible they could struggle out of the gate because like Drake May did look at like an MVP at times during the regular season last year, but down the stretch he was not good. And the fact that they even made it to the Super Bowl was insane because of how Drake May was playing.
Right.
So I don't know. It seems to me like the Patriots, are a team that could potentially, like in a normal situation, this is a team where you'd be like, well, they might get off to a rough start, but they'll probably get it together because they clearly have talent potential in the future. But I think if they get off to a bad start this year, it could be just a complete implosion for them. You could see like Mike Vrabel getting fired and stuff like that. Like it could be bad.
Yeah. So bad.
So in terms of all, I think the Patriots are one of the most interesting teams that we're going to talk about as far as like why your team could suck, because they basically reached the highest heights that any AFC team reached last year, and yet they have their potential for sucking next year is really steep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean that might not happen, but we'll talk about why that might not happen in a future episode. So, now let's move on. We'll take it. We'll get some easy teams to analyze as far as why they'll suck here in a bit. But before we get to those two teams, let's go to the Bills and talk about why they're going to suck this year.
The Buffalo Bills, man. I think because of their defensive depth, man. Because the Bills, their defense, man, they got some guys over there. But I mean, losing Teron Johnson and replacing him with Geno Stone. They brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, which I'm not a fan of. They drafted a couple people, but I don't think that defensive depth is really great. And in this make-believe land, I don't think Josh Allen and the offense will be able to overcome that.
I forgot, which is crazy because we talk about it all the time on this show, but I forgot that Geno Stone was on the Bills. So that's my answer right there. Like I have a whole nother answer, right? And I'm going to give that answer here in a sec. But now that you've reminded me Geno Stone is there, well, that's why they're going to suck, because he's going to miss all of the tackles for the defense on behalf of all the other players. He might not even start. And other players are just going to be missing tackles because Geno Stone missed those tackles for them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it's going to work. Okay, so the actual reason that I have for why Buffalo it could be quite a dangerous thing for Buffalo, and this is this is a real concern I have about Buffalo that I've talked about really all offseason. That's the fact that they fired Sean McFucking-Dermott and they replaced him with Joe Brady. Like I was intrigued by the potential of Joe Brady, just like anybody else was when he was coming off of being the offensive coordinator at LSU. But I haven't seen anything he's done at the NFL that gives me any confidence. Like all this dude did when he got his first shot at a position of any significance in the NFL was get clowned on by Teddy Bridgewater and get fired by Matt Rule. And that whole thing in Carolina just completely dispelled all of the mystique for Joe Brady for me. He seemed like a guy who had one of the most unbelievably fortunate offensive arsenals in the history of college football to work with. And so basically all he had to do in college was kick his feet back up, be like, yo, Joe, you go figure it out. And then Joe and Joe and Jamar and Justin Jefferson all just figured it out. I don't even know how much Joe Brady even really had to do. Then again, maybe making Clyde Edwards-Helaire look like a potential first round pick. Maybe that you could credit that to Joe Brady.
He was a first round pick.
I know he was a first round pick, but I thought even at the time, I'm like, I mean, he's good, but is he first round pick good? We sure about that? And I mean, he had some flashes with Kansas City, but it was never like, it never really felt like they really hit with that pick. With
right.
CJ Gardner-Johnson, I think, has a lot of potential, so I wouldn't necessarily use him as an evidence for me as evidence why I think the Bills might have a bad season. But it also, like you said, might not work out. But for me, it begins and ends with Joe Brady. I don't understand what people see in Joe Brady at this point. Yeah, he's been successful as the Bills offensive coordinator. I once again, I think that's entirely attributed to the talent at his disposal, as evidenced by the fact that his other experience being an offensive coordinator was a complete and utter disaster. The one thing I will point out to say, like, oh, maybe it will work out for Joe Brady is the fact that he studied under one of the better head coaches in the NFL and Sean McDermott. And maybe he learned a lot under Sean McDermott that he wasn't ready for when he went to Carolina. But they fired Sean McDermott. So, clearly whatever Sean McDermott was doing wasn't meshing with the Bills in the first place. So, like, if your argument for why Joe Brady might be good is because he studied under Sean McDermott, then why'd you fire Sean McDermott? Mm-hmm. I'm still absolutely beside myself that they did that. I'm like the dumbest. I know the playoff success wasn't there, but it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. It just is. Mm-hmm. Hi guys, don't underestimate Joe Brady. Sorry, that's I'm going to do that until he proves otherwise. I think he had more to do with 2019 than you stated. Severely disagree. I have yet to see anything from him in the NFL that impresses me at all.
Yeah, look, as an LSU fan myself, I ain't gonna lie, that championship year, Joe Brady, look, I'm always a person that says this. I think coaching has a lot more to do with things than people realize, but I will say this. I mean, I'm pretty sure I could have coached LSU to the championship if we had Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson and guys like that. So
I think if I'll say one thing that I think Joe Brady seems to be good at when it comes to being a football coach, it's at collaborating with other people who are, really talented at the thing that he himself is trying to do. And perhaps he can be a really good part of an overall great system. But that in and of itself is an argument to me why I think he would make a poor head coach, because I have yet to see him do anything on his own that works out at all. I think he had like before he went to LSU, I think he had he built some nobody program up, if I recall correctly. But other than that, it's a lot of question marks with Joe Brady.
I'll also say this: some guys I think are made for college, and some guys aren't.
Well, yeah, I don't know if Joe Brady would necessarily be a guy I would use as an example of that, but maybe he is.
Big facts.
Okay, well, all right. So now we got the Bills and the Patriots out of the way, and again, Ashley, I don't know if you heard earlier, but we're not actually saying the Bills are definitely going to suck this year. We're just going over, reasons why, if they do suck, which in the Bills case would be like sucking. And we're about to get to the Dolphins and the Jets. Okay. So the context here is sucking for the Dolphins and Jets means something a little bit different than sucking if you're the Bills. Cause sucking if you're the Bills means potentially missing the playoffs. Sucking for the Dolphins and the Jets, as we'll get to, basically means you're just completely hapless.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair enough, Ashley. I mean, I'm not saying, I want to be clear about Joe Brady. I'm not saying I definitely think Joe Brady's the next big head coach bust in the NFL. I'm just saying I don't see the vision. I don't get it. And I think I think the Bills are being run really poorly right now. And so Joe Brady's going into not only am I just not sold on Joe Brady, but I also feel he's going into a situation that's not nearly as good as it looks. Because you got Josh Allen to work with, and they brought in DJ Moore, and that could work out really well. But at the end of the day, that Bills ownership kind of seems to not really know what they're doing.
That Bills when the Bills owner threw Keon Coleman completely under the bus, I was like, yeah, the Bills, they're just broken at this point.
Yeah, that whole thing just even if it's true, even if we accept that it's true that Keon Coleman just wasn't any good and stuff like that, like you can't be saying stuff like that as the owner to the media because those guys in the locker room, whether Keon Coleman was productive or not, they still had a sort of bond with him, and they also have bonds as players. So if you got your owner trashing the players in meetings, the players are going to remember that, and they're not going to react well.
Right, and that's how I was. Like, you remember this, Kyle? You remember a couple years ago, right? With the Saints and Dennis Allen. You remember when Dennis Allen threw the entire team under the bus? And what happened next year? Then what happened next year? The Saints, they started hot, going 2-0, but then they lost 7 straight games. And then Alvin Kamara said, "Hey, I want the guy fired." And then guess what? They fired him.
Yeah, that's
what happens when you throw guys under the bus.
That's a perfect example. Dennis Allen is a perfect example of that. And then maybe
throw guys under the bus. They're going to rebel against you.
Maybe perhaps he learned a bit of a lesson from that because he appeared to be much more, player friendly when he got to Chicago, and that worked out a lot better.
Yeah, I'm not saying Dennis Allen was like a terrible person in the locker room, at least for Chicago. I know he was over here. But like when you throw people under the bus, they're gonna rebel against you. That's just what happens.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to much easier cases for why they're gonna suck. Let's start with the Jets because out of the two, my personal opinion is the Jets have a little bit more potential, at the very least, than the Dolphins. So we'll start with the Jets just because, it might be, I don't think it's gonna be hard at all to make an argument for why they're gonna suck, but it might be a little bit harder than it is with the Dolphins. I don't know. Go ahead, Mikey.
Because they gotta play 17 games.
Ooh. That's funny. That's a good way to put that. Yeah, they got to play. And not only do they got to play 17 games, but all 17 of those games are against NFL level competition.
Exactly, and that offense, that offense led by Geno Smith in the Big 2026. That's just what are we talking? I don't even need to say anything else.
It is mind-boggling to me that we've come full circle on Geno Smith, of all people. Like, he's the one who got the full circle moment in the NFL.
Can Geno rebound?
Geno rebound?
But
no.
The problem with Geno rebounding is he plays for the Jets.
Also, he's Geno Smith.
Yeah, and he's like, what, 34? Something like that.
I don't know how old he is, but he's definitely getting up there. They got Mika Igbukba and Mika Igbukba.
No, they don't.
Wait, who did they sign? Did I read that wrong?
They didn't. Igbukba was a rookie last year for the Bucks.
I swear, I thought. Who am I thinking of then?
I don't know who you're thinking of. Minka Fitzpatrick? Mario David?
It's some wide receiver they got.
Did they draft him?
They might have. I don't know. I'll look it up later though. It's not really important because it's not really I was really just kind of using that as a standpoint of being yeah, they did a thing, but it's not. I don't think it's going to solve anything. And that's really that's kind of my point with Geno Smith. They have a long way to climb to even reach remote competency here.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing in Geno Smith to be your answer at quarterback kind of feels like trying to plug a leak in the Titanic with a dish sponge.
Yeah.
I don't understand the vision here unless they're tanking. If they're tanking, then I guess whatever. But it's one of these days they got to stop tanking. One of these days they actually got to try.
I actually just brought up a point. I mean, they might be on the march for Arch, which
But again, but then they're gonna go get Arch. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But let's say they go get Arch, cool, and then they're tanking again in 2 or 3 years after that. Does the tanking end?
I mean, yeah, they've been tanking ever since Mark Sanchez left.
And even then, And they may not have been tanking with Mark Sanchez, but they were getting ready to tank near the end of Mark Sanchez's tenure because that just fell all the way off a cliff. One of the biggest moves that the Jets made this offseason, just to put it in context for how hopeless things kind of feel for the Jets right now, one of the biggest moves they made this offseason, other than bringing back Geno Smith, which how big of a move was that really? But for the Jets and the fact that he's going to be their starting quarterback, like that's a pretty big move, I suppose. But other than Geno Smith, one of the biggest moves they made this offseason, they signed Joseph Osai to a pretty, healthy contract. And I can tell you as a Bengals fan that as much as I liked Joseph Osai for his potential, never, ever came close to living up for it. He had paper thin skin. Basically Jermaine Pratt laid into him after his mistake in the 2022 AFC Championship game that gave the Chiefs, an easy field goal to win the game at the end. Although I would argue the defense was playing badly enough that the Chiefs probably would have gotten down the field anyway, but maybe they wouldn't have, and maybe they would have set him up for a tough field goal instead of an easy chip shot. But Jermaine Pratt laid into Joseph Osai, and pretty much ever since that moment, Joseph Osai just completely lost all of his edge, and he turtled up, and he just kind of seemed like somebody who was mentally broken over a guy criticizing him. So I say all that to say that if that's the big splash piece that the Jets are going with this offseason, it's gonna be rough, because the whole upside of Joseph Osai is what he could be, and that was what he was. That was the whole upside for his first 4 years here in Cincinnati, and he never hit that upside. So, at best, maybe the Jets are bringing him in now on what they believe could ultimately be a relatively cheap deal for a defensive end, and maybe he hits and develops, and then once they're done tanking, then they've got this piece that can actually work out really well for them.
Exactly.
But that's the whole argument for bringing in Joseph Osai. So, the Jets are. If you're a Jets fan, man, just focus on the Knicks.
God have mercy on your soul.
Right, and focus on the Knicks. That's all you got right now.
And also try not to die, because New York is going crazy.
Considering the divide between Jets and Giants fans, are Jets fans more on aggregate Nets fans as opposed to Knicks fans?
I don't follow the team by city.
Yeah, I don't really follow the NBA much at all, but my thought process is the Nets have kind of always been the other team in New York, kind of like the Jets are. Not that the Knicks have had a ton of success over the years, but the Knicks are always the team that you hear, most people who are New Yorkers, they'll be I'm a Giants fan, I'm a Knicks fan. And, you usually hear people who are on the fringe will say that I'm a Jets fan and I'm a Nets fan. So are the Jets just the Nets of the NFL?
Honestly, probably. The Nets used to play in New Jersey. So, there you go.
Yeah, that is true. Now they're in Brooklyn, but
they're in Brooklyn, right. New York.
Yeah, it's true. All right, well, so yeah, that's why the Jets are going to suck this year. And the thing about that one is it's probably going to be with the Patriots and the Bills. I was like, guys, I just want to be absolutely clear. We're not saying the Patriots and the Bills are going to suck this year. It's just if things go off the rails, that's probably why. But with the Jets, that's the Jets are probably going to suck. Look, they're going to be bad, like they are every year.
Yeah.
Speaking of teams that will be bad, the Miami Dolphins. Now let's talk about why.
Jets 2.0.
They're very similar to the Jets.
You know why? Because they got a head coach that looks like he got his eyes punched, and they decided, you know what? We're going to sign Malik Willis to this big contract, and then we're going to make sure that he has the neighbors from down the road to throw the ball to.
Yeah, the more I look into Jeff Hafley, the more I'm just like, I don't really know why he was considered to be like a really notable head coaching prospect. Because like, just look at what the Packers did last year on defense. Other than the parts where they had Micah Parsons, it wasn't that great.
That's what I said.
So, and I mean, in addition to that, it seems like the Dolphins don't really believe in him either, because the Dolphins are what the Dolphins have done this offseason looks as close to obviously tanking as I've ever seen. Ever. And this is a Dolphins team that I have said that same thing about before in the past. And this looks even more like tanking than that.
Oh yeah, they tanking for sure.
I think tanking is an actual philosophy they have in Miami. And part of the reason I say that is because it sounds like that actually is the case, because Brian Flores, I mean, whether you believe Brian Flores or not, I don't know. But the fact that Brian Flores is one of a few people who have come out and said, yes, the Dolphins were indeed instructing people to lose games. It seems like that might just be a philosophy of like Stephen Ross. And the problem with that is, like, if you're gonna tanking is bad, and I've ranted against tanking forever on this show. But I will say, if you're gonna tank, the tanking has to be for not being bad in the future. But it just seems like teams like the Dolphins and maybe the Jets, but it depends on whether the Jets are actually tanking all the time or if they're actually as incompetent as they look. But the Dolphins, like, at some point, the tanking has to be for something. Like the Dolphins have literally not been relevant even remotely since Dan Marino. There was a little tiny period of time when it was like, it looked like they were a potential up and coming team when like Tua was like in his second year, had a decent rookie season, and Mike McDaniel was talked about as like this, like quirky genius type of coach and stuff like that. And a lot of people, they were like a popular dark horse pick by a lot of people going into whatever season that was. But other than that one season, the Dolphins have just been completely irrelevant forever. Like the vast majority of my lifetime. And I think getting too used to the idea of tanking for the future might be part of why, because it's like, if you tank for the future, but then you never actually get to the future, then like you're just the Washington Generals.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the best case scenario for the Dolphins this year, because I mean, like, they've got Malik Willis at quarterback. They traded away. They basically got rid of anybody of any value. The only real notable addition they had was Malik Willis, and I don't think anybody expects him to like lead a team to championship success, or even playoff success or anything. Like, I mean, he looked like he was pretty okay in Jordan Love's stead, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be able to be the guy who carries a bad roster to like major success. So like, the best case scenario for the Dolphins here is that Malik Willis does indeed, or maybe Quinn Ewers, maybe he actually, turns into something. But like, Malik Willis actually turning out to be like the guy and something that the Dolphins can potentially build around in the future. And then the Dolphins becoming, instead of a garbage team, they're an annoying team. Not a team that's going to be competing to make the playoffs, but a team that's like, oh shit, we don't want to play them at the end of the year because they're dangerous and angry.
Yeah, and by the way, actually, no, the Dolphins got Tyreek. So there's your answer for that.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill's gonna, and maybe that's a good thing, because you want to talk about diva wide receivers, but you're also losing a lot of talent by getting rid of Tyreek too. So, and that's the biggest problem with the Dolphins, is just a complete lack of talent. Yeah, it's hard to win games in the NFL if you're operating at a talent deficit to the rest of the league.
Right. I think the thing with Tyreek though, Like the thing, why I didn't really have a problem with Cousins because he's coming off of a terrible knee injury.
Yeah,
and it's like with it, like Tyreek was known for like how fast he was, but with like knee problems and stuff, I don't think he's gonna be as fast as. I don't think he's gonna be the cheetah anymore.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off here. I mean, we're not going to do the Bengals just yet, but we are going to get into the AFC North. So the Bengals are coming very soon. But let's start in this case. Let's start with the easy one, the Browns. So why are they going to suck, Mikey?
I think Brown's going to suck because of the quarterback uncertainty. I don't know who's starting. Is it going to be Shador? Is it going to be Deshaun Watson? Is Dylan Gabriel going to put his name back in the hat? I don't know. I just dislocated my finger. Ow, that hurt. But I don't know.
Are you sure you dislocated your finger?
I don't know.
Maybe. Okay.
Anyways.
You just didn't react to it all that much in the moment, but hopefully you don't just have to pop it back in live on camera. All right. So I think that's part of why the Browns are going to suck this year. I mean, that definitely is an issue, the quarterback situation. Deshaun Watson is clearly not the future at this point. I think everybody would agree. The only people saying Deshaun Watson is the future is the Browns front office, and that's, I think, mainly because they're maybe trying to see if they can talk his value up a little bit. But I don't think even the Browns front office really believes that Deshaun Watson's the future. Dylan Gabriel has been basically just left to rot and is like just looks like, you know, the nerdy kid in the corner who keeps getting picked on. Like, I mean, he's like Dylan.
The Browns bullied Dylan Gabriel into giving up his jersey number.
Exactly. Like it seems like Dylan Gabriel is basically an afterthought at this point. And if you want to talk about like just shredding any sense of confidence a guy has, like I remember last year, like getting some texts from Thomas, like, oh, like when Dylan Gabriel was like playing well very briefly, Thomas was like, oh, he might be the guy, but mostly because it's like there is no guy, so Thomas is just desperately hoping that anybody's the guy at this point. But that Dylan Gabriel, almost clearly not the guy. Nobody really believes that he's the guy, and the people who seem to believe that he's the guy the least are the Cleveland Browns. And so that's got to destroy his confidence. At least when being in a Cleveland Browns jersey, you know, I wouldn't be shocked just because he does have some talent. I wouldn't be shocked if Dylan Gabriel's the type of guy who leaves the Cleveland Browns. You know, I mean, he might get cut, honestly, and then goes to another team and plays a lot better for that other team because he's pissed off and motivated. But I mean, it's pretty obvious Shador Sanders isn't the answer. You know, he got one of the fakest Pro Bowl nominations of all time, but like the only reaction I've seen to that has either been haha, this is funny, or this is an example of why the Pro Bowl is stupid. Nobody, literally, I haven't heard a single person make the argument that Shador Sanders was a Pro Bowler out of merit.
With not the straight face.
Well, right, but that's what I'm saying. Like the only people who seem to like that he'd made the Pro Bowl was people who thought it's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Shador ain't the guy. They drafted Taylor Green, who I've heard
he's the best quarterback in that room.
Yeah, he might be, but like I've heard some people have compared him to Colin Kaepernick. I think that's generous. From what I've seen from Taylor Green, he basically struggles with every single technical skill that a quarterback could need. But also he's really fast and athletic, you know, like, so like they got a great, like people make fun of Lamar. People make fun of Lamar Jackson. What?
I hate when people be saying, oh, but he's athletic. Like, dude, I'm drafting you to be a quarterback. I'm not drafting you to go to the Olympics.
Right. People make fun of Lamar Jackson sometimes by saying like, oh, he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. But that really genuinely might be Taylor Green's best position because he's not very good at like recognizing defenses. He's not very good at operating in the pocket. He's not very good at like accuracy or like throwing motion or anything like that. What is he good at? He's good at taking off out of the pocket and being athletic and making crazy plays like that. So, I mean, like he's Pat White, I guess. I think Pat White's a way better comparison than Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, I mean, like, cause like it's like, and it was the same thing with like Anthony Richardson, right? When he was coming out, Jalen Milroe, was famous for that. Like these guys are so athletic, but it's like I'm drafting you to try to win me a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback. I'm not drafting you to go to go to war, jump over grenades or something.
Right. But to be fair, Taylor Brown was a 6th round pick. Like people, I think people aren't over projecting Taylor Green, or at least not people who are in the NFL sphere. But for that reason, it's just like maybe Taylor Green is the best quarterback in that room, but he's also maybe like very, very possibly maybe not. And if he's maybe not, then that's a really bad indication that the rest of the Browns quarterback room is even being compared to him.
Big facts.
Like it's just it is an absolute disaster at Browns quarterback, the Browns quarterback situation. But there's more to it than just that. They traded Myles Garrett, which is like the only reason that they had any competent, like possible shot at doing anything. I know they got Jared Verse, and Jared Verse is a very good player, and blah 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 blah. And if he does happen to continue his development trajectory with them, then that's awesome. But that's not going to make up for not having Myles Garrett, because Jared Verse gets pressures. Myles Garrett makes plays. That there's a big difference. There is, I think, just in general, a pretty high likelihood, partly because they pissed off Jim Schwartz and he fucked off, right? So I think there's a really good chance that the Browns defense takes a major step back this year.
Right.
And then there's the offense.
Wait, they have an offense?
I don't think so. That's my point, though, because like if the defense isn't good, then how are they going to compete? And I'm still not done. On top of all of that, Todd Monken is their fucking head coach.
They have a head coach?
They hired somebody to do it. They hired the guy who was once their offensive coordinator and helped Nick Chubb have a really good year in a season where otherwise they were basically Nick Chubb was the only reason that team probably won any games that year. Because their offense in every major category, except probably, I'm guessing, rushing, was ranked in the bottom half of the NFL, and they finished 6-10. And then the whole coaching staff got fired after that. So that's the guy they got to be their head coach. The guy who basically Lamar Jackson wanted to fuck off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from top to bottom, it's like with the Dolphins, it's like, well, there's a couple of things that there's a lot of projection, but in a couple of years you could kind of see maybe if they do everything in the right way that they clearly have planned, and they decide to stop tanking one of these days, maybe there's something there. With the Jets, there's a couple things you can point out with it, like, well, this is, this guy's a solid piece, this guy's a solid piece, blah 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 blah. With the Browns, what are we doing? Like, there's no plan here. The plan, I think, is
no plan.
I think it's it. I think the plan is there is no plan. The plan is the Deshaun Watson contract was such an absolute embarrassment and disaster, and we're still stuck with it for another couple of years, that we might as well just commit to being awful. We took a risk and it clearly blew up in our faces, so we might as well just accept the fact that we're going to have like major facial reconstruction surgery coming in the future, and until then we're going to be in major severe pain.
The plan is to die trying.
I don't even know if the plan's to die trying. I think the plan is to die on your own terms, maybe? Because like I think they traded Miles. The reason they traded Myles Garrett is because I mean I don't know. I haven't talked to Jimmy Haslam, or whoever their fucking GM is. But the reason, I mean, as far as I can tell, the reason they traded Myles Garrett is because he is still a player at the absolute peak of his powers. And his trade value right now is probably the highest it will ever be. And maybe it would have been higher like last year, but it's not that much different this year. But after this year, it's probably going to be trailing off every single year. And if the Browns know they're not going to get better while Myles Garrett is still like a contributing factor, then you might as well just trade him and rip the Band-Aid off now and then like, commit to a complete and total rebuild with having an asset. Like the only asset the Browns had was Myles Garrett. So you might as well go ahead and cash that piece in and see if maybe, the next one will work. But I'll go back to my comment about the Dolphins. Like, when does that end? When does this stop? When do you guys actually stop rebuilding constantly?
When pigs start flying.
I mean, maybe with the Browns, honestly. Okay, so with all that depressing shit out of the way, not depressing for me because haha, fuck you, fuck Cleveland, but depressing for the vast majority of NFL fans who don't hate the Cleveland Browns and also are not Cleveland Browns fans. But then again, I think Browns fans might largely fall into the category of people who hate the Cleveland Browns. Maybe.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Ravens. Why are the Ravens going to suck this year, Mikey?
Man, because their playoff hopes are so high, and they just crash and burn now.
My biggest concern with the Ravens is I think they're taking a risk by bringing in Trey Hendrickson, and I've already talked before about my concerns about Trey Hendrickson going forward. He is at the age where edge rushers do start to already decline, and he was already kind of starting to not really be the same Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals. Now, a lot of that was because he wasn't able to get on the field a whole lot, and then he just was never really in a rhythm. But I mean, that's kind of like, I don't know why that would necessarily stop going forward. That really should only continue more, and his role going forward in the future for an NFL team is likely going to be as like a rotational type of player, which he could make a very good impact that way, but he's not going to change a team's fortunes that way.
And that contract he received by Baltimore is pretty hefty. Like, they're expecting him to be a big time player.
Right. So and maybe it works out. I mean, Trey Hendrickson, I as a Bengals fan, I can attest Trey Hendrickson is a very talented human being and could work out really, really nicely for Baltimore. But what I've seen personally from Trey Hendrickson the last couple of years gives me a little bit of pause about his long-term viability as like, being the same caliber of player going forward. I just don't. I mean, I will say if any year he's going to be the guy that they were hoping for when they signed, it'll have to be this year. If the most likely year for it to happen is this year. So, I mean, I guess maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't with, Trey Hendrickson. But I think it's also worth noting that there's a decent chance that it's not going to work out with him. And if it doesn't, they put a lot of pieces in place.
Big facts.
On Trey Hendrickson being the guy. I mean, and on top of that, the shit they pulled with Max Crosby and then pivoted directly to Trey Hendrickson. I mean, like, that's just not going to look good to anybody. If Trey Hendrickson doesn't like set the world on fire for them. My other concern with the Ravens is not that I don't believe in Jesse Minter. To be clear, I actually think he was a good hire. But he is a first-year head coach. And he's a rookie head coach. He's never been a head coach before. I just got a lot of messages in from people. So Stranger and Ashley and Killicam, who said Steelers going to the bowl. It's not happening. We're going to talk about the Steelers next. And then Jim, a bunch of people sent comments, and I only just now came through. So I don't know why that is, but I will get through those here in a little bit. And it wasn't Kenyon Sadiq, Ashley. I don't know why I was thinking of Mika Egbuka. I don't know why I was thinking of Mika Egbuka, but yeah, I don't think Kenyon Sadiq was who I was thinking of.
What do you think about Omar Cooper?
Maybe. I mean, he's kind of a somewhat similar player.
He's the guy that they drafted.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was either way, I will get through all of those comments here in a sec, just because they just popped up for me. So apologies for not getting through those at the time. But Jesse Minter, my concern with Jesse Minter is not that he's not going to be good for Baltimore, because I think he could be, and I was quite disheartened when I found out the Ravens were hiring him, because I'm like, damn, that's good. That's a good thing for them. Fuck. I just don't know if it's going to happen right away in year one. And if it doesn't happen right away in year one, like I said, they put a lot of chips on the table for Trey Hendrickson. And if you're not making the most of Trey Hendrickson year one, you might not ever really get the most out of Trey Hendrickson. Since 1960, first year head coaches who are taking over a winning team tend to average about, and I mean, there's only so many people. Like Matt LaFleur is the only guy who has really done this recently. But if you go back to like 1960, we're talking about guys like, Jim Harbaugh and George Seifert, et cetera, et cetera. And they average about 9 wins. And these are guys who are taking over winning teams. So they tend to regress a little bit in year one. And then all time, like all of the first time head coaches who have been out since 2000 are averaging about 7 wins a season. Now, granted, you're going to have some outliers that aren't really relevant to like what the Ravens situation is, like Urban Meyer, for example, right? That actually is kind of going into that second one. But I still think it's important to note that about 9 wins is about what you should expect out of a first-time head coach taking on a team that was previously had a pretty competitive and winning a lot.
Uh-huh.
Now, again, that doesn't mean it's not going to work out long term. That just means the first year, it's usually it's unlikely that guy is going to make a big impact in year one.
Right.
So that's
no impact at all.
So yeah, I mean, he could. But this isn't the. We will talk about the positive things that Jesse Minter could bring to the Ravens when we do that, the why your team will be good this year episode, right? But this is the one where we're like, they're going to suck this year. And I mean, I don't know if the Ravens go 9-8, I don't know if that counts as sucking, but considering all the hype they have, that's definitely going to be like a big drop off compared to what people were expecting.
Did you miss me?
So to them, that might feel like sucking.
Did you miss me?
Yeah.
So,
Did you miss me?
And the my biggest issue with that, by the way, is because, like I said, I feel like it could eventually work out. Like Jesse Minter, after like a year or two to adjust, could be a really good head coach for them. But the other problem is the Ravens are such a win now team. I was just talking about this with Trey Hendrickson, but with I mean, they're nearing the end of like Derrick Henry really being an effective like top major part of their offense for them. Who knows how much longer that's really going to be at that level. I think we've already seen a little bit of decline from Derrick Henry compared to what he used to be. Lamar Jackson and his play style, that wears over time, and he's not getting anything but older. So, and they got guys like Jair Alexander and Trey Hendrickson, like I said before, who are incoming guys who were once very good in the NFL, but because of certain circumstances may not be quite the players.
Are you talking about Jair Alexander right now?
No, I'm saying what he was at one time, and that's the issue. Is
so I was confused for a second.
Right, I'm right. Jair Alexander as an example of kind of this thing that the Ravens have been doing lately, which is trying to be very win now. And I don't understand why, if you're a win now team, why are you firing John Harbaugh?
Because John Harbaugh's not a head coach that can win you games now.
Maybe not, but as I just illustrated with Jesse Mentor, if you're win now, you're not bringing in a new coach because you're not going to win now. You might win in a couple of years, but if you're a win now team, if your strategy is to go all in on winning now, then going and getting Jesse Mentor and replacing John Harbaugh does not make sense.
I mean, look, I said they should have fired John Harbaugh 3 years ago. So.
Maybe they should have fired John Harbaugh 3 years ago, but the problem is they fired him now. Yeah, if they had done all this a few years ago and gone and gotten somebody like Jesse Mentor a few years ago, perhaps being all in and being like, we're going to put all the chips on the table and we're going to win now, maybe that would make sense. But the problem is the infrastructure that they have right now doesn't make a lot of sense for trying to win now, which is what they're clearly doing with a lot of these moves.
Yeah.
So again, they's not saying they won't be good, but there's a big risk. There's a big risk for the Ravens that if that doesn't pan out exactly the way that they're hoping it will, it could really blow up in their faces, which is the theme with a lot of these teams we're talking about who are supposed to be good. But there's this one thing that, like, I don't know if you guys really have a plan for if this doesn't click for you.
All right.
Speaking of which, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ooh, I got some stuff to say about the Steelers.
All right. Why Pittsburgh Steelers, man? Why the Pittsburgh Steelers will suck, man? This is why. Because their offensive ceiling, right? Their offensive ceiling is always going to be the 10-win mark, but that's just their ceiling. So they could finish less than that because that's their ceiling. The offense is not good enough to excel, and that's been the same way for 20 years. And just because firing Mike Tomlin, who was there for that time, that ain't going to do that. That ain't going to change nothing. Aaron Rodgers is literally a grandfather almost. Aaron Rodgers is 75-year-old. He ancient. DK Metcalf, he washed now. Michael Pittman, he good, but he ain't great. Enrico Dowdle, he good. He ain't great. Pat Fryermuth is mid. So that's why. Because their offense, their ceiling is not great.
I think there's more to it than just the offense. Yes, the offense, and I will talk about the offense.
That's my reason.
But Killa Cam is in here talking about Steelers going to the Super Bowl, and there's no reason the Steelers can't win, and he's citing the defense as the reason why that's going to be the case. All y'all favorite receivers locked by JPJ. Well, you see, the thing is, Killa Cam, I think you may not think and understand the fact that the Bengals have 2 number 1 receivers on their team, and they also have a guy who could be like basically a slot receiver in Mike Gesicki, and the amount of like JPJ can't cover all those guys, right? But my issue with the Steelers is that I think the expectations for what they could be on every single aspect of their team is insanely overblown. I'll just say it right now. TJ Watt might be washed. I mean, like recently washed, but washed. And if TJ Watt does not hold things down, then yeah, JPJ is a good piece. But as a whole, the Steelers, the way they're constructed is it's like it's very thin line between being good and being bad. And then the offense is even thinner than that because it's like, you got Aaron Rodgers, future Hall of Famer, as your quarterback. But he's already said he's retiring at the end of the season, and he's Aaron Rodgers. So I wouldn't be shocked if Aaron Rodgers basically just quits on the team halfway through the season if they get off to a bad start. And then Aaron Rodgers is like, fuck this. That seems like something Aaron Rodgers could very well do. And the problem with that, especially because like he's with Mike McCarthy again, and Mike McCarthy has been known to butt heads quite a bit with Aaron Rodgers in the past. So now you've got an even more prima donna Aaron Rodgers than the one that was in Green Bay. Mm-hmm. And a guy who's basically already committed to the fact that he's going to not play football after this season. And so if he feels like the Steelers are a sinking ship, whether the Steelers actually are a sinking ship or not, isn't really the same thing as whether Aaron Rodgers believes they are or not. So Aaron Rodgers doesn't do Aaron Rodgers, like Hall of Fame level Aaron Rodgers things, then this season, which kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Ravens being all in, the Steelers are kind of all in, but they're all in with worse players than the Ravens. Like you said, DK Metcalf, he's probably washed. I mean, still better than like, you know, like probably like he's more talented than half the receivers in the NFL, but he might be a bit past his prime. TJ Watt also might be washed. You got Mike McCarthy as your head coach now. Aaron Rodgers just might not be all in at this point.
Right.
And then on top of so if the Steelers, my biggest concern, and I would love if this happened, by the way, because I am indeed a hater, and you can dismiss all of my arguments as me being a hater if you want to, but I did my research, so it's not true. But my biggest concern for the Steelers is that, because a lot of people have talked about, like you know, like a lot of the YouTube guys and a lot of the ESPN people, a lot of people have been regurgitating the same point about the Steelers this offseason. The worst case scenario for them is if they make the playoffs, but then get blown out in the first round. But that's not the worst case scenario for the Steelers. Like it's just not, because the worst case scenario for them, just in terms of like purely what your record is and what your draft pick is, the worst case scenario for them is they barely miss the playoffs and still have like a mid draft pick. And potentially no future. But the truly worst case scenario here for the Steelers is that, as I said, Aaron Rodgers basically quits on this team mid-season because they get off to a slow start. And then Drew Aller is forced to go in when he's not ready and gets his confidence completely obliterated because he has to go play for a Steelers team that is just floundering because they are dealing with all of this Aaron Rodgers fallout. And then on top of that, they got Mike McCarthy as the head coach, who just has not proven in any way that he knows how to develop anybody. So 6-11 is probably like the true worst case scenario for the Steelers. And that's also a 6-11 where Drew Aller is floundering at the end of the season, and the Steelers are like 3 steps away from turning into the Browns basically at that point.
Big facts.
That's the true worst case scenario. And yeah, maybe that's not super likely that everything's going to go exactly that way. But the fact that that's like the fact that you're at the point where that's a real potential outcome that we can talk about gives me concern about the Steelers long term. And maybe the Steelers long term isn't the same thing as talking about them this year. But now, Ashley is asking, what do you think Mike McCarthy's going to do with this team? I mean, my honest opinion is I don't think Mike McCarthy's going to do much of anything with the Steelers. I don't think it's going to work out. But, I mean, it could. Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl one time against the Steelers. So
I think the Steelers will I think Mike McCarthy could get the Steelers to playing at like that 10-11 win threshold. You know, I don't know. I think McCarthy's a better head coach than a lot of people think he is.
I don't. I think Mike McCarthy is a phenomenally worse head coach than a lot of people think he is.
Well, damn.
This is another like same. A lot of similar concerns I've had about Joe Brady. Whereas like there was one time things worked out for him, and other than that, it's just been a lot of just like not really working out. And it hasn't been as severe for Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy didn't get basically run out of Dallas the way that Joe Brady got run out of Carolina. But Cowboys fans do not really like Mike McCarthy very much. So it's not like it was a totally amicable divorce.
True.
Yeah, I just we'll talk about the Cowboys and the Vikings, by the way, and also the Saints next week, Jim. We're not on the NFC teams this week.
We're going to read a title.
But as far as the question about Mike McCarthy goes, I mean, he's an experienced head coach who's got a pretty decent resume, at least as far as like, winning and losing goes. So that alone, you got to say that, maybe, Mike McCarthy can, and him being from Pittsburgh could help, but that could also hurt because like, I can tell you as somebody who watched somebody from my high school make it to the NFL and actually get off to a really great start with the Buffalo Bills. And then he came Preston Brown. Then he came to his hometown Cincinnati Bengals and he was just garbage. I think there's something to be said about, yes, it can motivate you to do well playing or coaching, in this case, for your childhood favorite team, but it can also be a really great way to get you in your own head and get you in your own way. Because then you're a lot more sensitive to the ups and downs of what happens. Because like, if you've got this vision in your head of being like the next great Steelers head coach, because you were such a big Steelers fan growing up, and then you kind of like look like a jackass early on, that could really mess with your head.
Right.
So, now we will be fair to, I will be fair to the Steelers. And when we get to the AFC, this is why your team will be good episode, I will say reasons why the Steelers will be good next year. And I'm not going to enjoy it. And I really enjoyed talking shit about them in this episode, but I will be fair. And I'm not just saying it just because I hate them, but just like with everybody else, and and actually on that note, we're going to get to the Bengals next. So I'm going to tell you why the Bengals are going to suck this year, even though I don't actually believe the Bengals are going to suck this year. But they could, and so we're going to talk about that. But I'll let Mikey start.
All right, man. So the Cincinnati Bengals are going to suck this year because Joe Burrow can never stay healthy. All right?
That's it. That's a good point.
The Bengals going to suck this year because Joe Burrow by week 4 is going to be in the hospital. And I don't know why he's addicted to going to the hospital. Look, I don't wish injuries on the guy. I actually like the guy. But the dude just can't stay on the football field. So that's your reason.
Okay. So, so that is a good point. Joe Burrow and his injury history definitely does not fill one with very much confidence. But the other thing I'll say is that's projection and that's speculation that he's just gonna get hurt again. I mean, like he could go through a period of like the next 5 years and not get a single major injury. That could also happen, right?
We're talking about why they suck this year.
I am. I'm going. That's what I'm setting up because I'm going to give you more concrete reasons why they're going to suck this year. And it's still a little bit of projection, but it's I think more of the. I think it's more of the conservative side of the argument, basically, like the not projecting as severely type of argument. And that's basically that. The other thing that you can point out about the Bengals and point to and be like, well, obviously they're bad, is the fucking defense. We saw how bad and utterly trash and horrible this defense was at doing anything of any kind of proof that any of them deserve to even be in the NFL. Like, how the fuck Geno Stone got another job after what happened last year boggles my mind. Why the Bills that guy, huh?
He had 100 tackles.
Which makes me wonder how many tackle attempts he had. If he managed to get 100, then he must have had like 500 or 600 attempts because he was bad. He was bad, and his tackle, his missed tackle ratio is verifiably bad. So if he managed to get 100 tackles, that's like how the fuck, I don't know. But I guess if anything, that's proof that he's not trying to be bad. He's just really that bad, because he clearly was trying to get tackles because he got 100 of them somehow. But no, the biggest concern with the Bengals,
missed tackles.
The biggest realistic concern with the Bengals in 2026 is not Joe Burrow's injuries, because injuries are speculative. You don't know what's going to happen. And Joe Burrow still, like, every time Joe Burrow gets injured, he comes back and he looks just as potent as he was before. So there's no reason to believe that's not going to happen again, because he is, last year he got injured, but he also came back last year and he looked just as good as ever. You know, maybe not the week he came back, but the week after he came back, he looked just as good as ever. Like, there's no concern that Joe Burrow is going to be hampered because of all the injuries that he's had. Now, maybe he does get injured again. I can't predict that, but I'm also not going to, you can't predict one way or the other on that one. So I'm not going to leave that here or there, but what you can predict is that the Bengals have had an insane amount of turnover on defense. Very needed, because their defense was very bad last year, but they brought in, Jonathan Allen, Dexter Lawrence, Boye Mafe, Cash Howell, Brian Cook, and you could argue Kyle Duggar was a major signing they made, even though Kyle Duggar's probably not going to start. But that's a lot of new pieces, and they've all got to hit for this defense to really turn it around. Like, if one of those guys ends up being bad, then that's probably going to kind of tank the whole idea. Now, I mean, if most of those guys are like okay and one of them is great, then that probably works out just fine. But if they're bringing in more people who are bad, and like any of those guys just doesn't live up to expectations, other than, again, Kyle Duggar, because Kyle Duggar's not necessarily expected to start. But, if Jonathan Allen, Dexter Lawrence, Boye Mafe, Cash Howell, or Brian Cook suck, that could kind of tank the whole idea of this team did a whole lot of work this offseason on defense, and they're going to be so much better, blah, 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 blah. But they might not be. They might still be. And maybe it's like something that works out in a, like even if it doesn't work out this year, maybe it does work out in a couple of years, but that doesn't help at all for this year, because this year, a lot of those guys have got to hit, because we saw last year, as good as the offense is, if the defense is garbage, it won't matter,
Right.
So like, better on paper might not be good enough. They've got a rough start to their schedule. Not all of their first 6 games are like major. I mean, they play the Dolphins at some point, so it's not like all of their first 6 games are like, like a gauntlet. But they do play at the Texans, they do play at the Steelers, and then they come home and play the Jaguars, which we'll get to them in a minute. But the Jaguars could be good this year. And then they play at the Ravens. Those are all part of their first 6 games. That's a rough start for a Bengals team that historically doesn't really get off to good starts. So, like, I do genuinely believe in this Bengals team personally, but I'm also a Bengals fan, so you can dismiss that as evidence pretty easily. But I don't think the Bengals are going to be bad this year, but there are a lot of reasons why they really could be bad this year, and they're really kind of banking on everything they did this offseason working out. Zach Taylor and Al Golden don't need the defense to be elite. They just need Burrow to stop having to win shootouts all the time. But that might not happen if it turns out Al Golden actually just isn't a good defensive coordinator, and how bad they were last year was partially because of Al Golden, or the defense doesn't take the step that they need to take, and the offense has to do it all again this year. It could be, you could have another really obnoxious season and waste yet another year of Joe Burrow's career. That's like, I don't think that's going to happen personally, but since this is what the episode is, we're going to talk about the worst case scenarios, and that's the most realistic worst case scenario for the Bengals is that the defense fucking sucks again.
Right.
So, all right.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're done with the AFC North now, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the let's do the AFC West. I kind of teased the Jaguars a little bit, but let's go ahead and move on to the AFC West. And we'll start with, I think, the big albatross that should be pretty simple to talk about because I've been talking about them for a while now, but the Kansas City Chiefs. Mikey, why are the Chiefs going to suck this year?
The one reason I could see the Chiefs sucking this year is championship fatigue. And why do I say that? Well, the Chiefs won all these Super Bowls, and now karma's biting them in the ass.
I mean, you could call it karma. You could call it a lot of things. The Chiefs won 6-11 last year. That wasn't an accident. They're like, it seemed like an outlier, but I don't think it was because what the Chiefs did last year was what it was looking like they were kind of on the precipice of doing basically every year for the last 5 years, and then they just fuck around and win the Super Bowl, right? But it's just like the Chiefs never really there was like a year or two there where like the Chiefs looked like just this unbelievably dominant, all-time type of team, right? But their whole dynasty has not been that kind of insane level of dominance. The last couple of years in particular, even when they were winning and going to the Super Bowl, it's like a lot of those wins they had weren't the most convincing wins. And that's part of what you got to do as a great team is you got to win the games that aren't sure things, right? But the Chiefs had a lot of those, like they had a lot of those. And I think Patrick Mahomes, you want to talk about because I was talking about guys who are washed. Patrick Mahomes might be not washed. I'm not going to go that far. But Patrick Mahomes might be in the process of washing.
The dude's getting paid $500 million.
I know, and that's part of why the Chiefs. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is bad now. What I am saying is Patrick Mahomes is recovering from a pretty serious injury that he did not rehab at all properly well at all. And he basically tried to play through it, got told to sit down by God, I guess. I don't know. And like he's just not the player. He hasn't looked like the player he once was ever since that injury. And maybe he gets back to that, but he's getting older just like everybody else. His play style definitely makes things add up over time. His safety blanket is 36 years old, and there was a lot of speculation that he was going to retire, Travis Kelce. That he was going to retire this offseason. He didn't, but I don't know if that's necessarily like he's not going to be Travis Kelce anymore. If they have to go to Justin Fields, he's their backup, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure I didn't have that one wrong too. But if they got to go to Justin Fields, it's just the wheels are going to fall off. And I'm not saying Justin Fields is horrendous. But Justin Fields, right. So I wasn't. What I was saying was, I'm not saying he's completely without hope because he's got talent. But so did Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz was their backup, and that didn't work out very well for them.
Justin Fields is cooked.
Well, Justin Fields probably is cooked.
Unless Andy Reid can pull some magic and turn this dude into a wizard. Dude, I'll say this right now. If Andy Reid can get Justin Fields, if he can get good football play out of Justin Fields, Andy Reid might be, no doubt about it, the best head coach of all time if he can do that. Because ain't nobody else can do that.
Well, Andy Reid should be like a undiscussed first ballot Hall of Famer if he turned Justin Fields into like a great quarterback. As it stands, Andy Reid's probably a Hall of Famer anyway, and he might even be first ballot. But I think the discussion, like the whole he might be first ballot, he might not be first ballot. The discussion would be over if he fixed Justin Fields.
Facts, big facts.
So that's the thing. If Mahomes does have struggles to be the player he once was, I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to bench Patrick Mahomes, who they just paid, like you said, $500 million to, but he could have some injury, like this knee thing could be nagging for him, just because it seems to have nagged so far, and he did kind of try to play through it in a dumb way. And we saw what that did to Baker Mayfield with his shoulder. But for Patrick Mahomes, it's his knee, which is constantly having pressure put on it at all times. Baker Mayfield, it's his throwing shoulder, and he's putting pressure on that every time he throws. But Patrick Mahomes is putting pressure on it every time he walks.
Yeah, hold on. Ace Boogie, where did you see that at?
Ace Boogie.
He's in my chat. He said that the Lions traded Aiden Hutchinson to the Broncos, but I don't see none. What? I don't know. I'm just telling you what he told me. Like, did Adam Schefter say something?
Yeah, I don't see that either. I'm assuming this is not the Ace Boogie of like Bengals fandom fame.
I don't know.
Ace, I think the Ace Boogie that I know would be a little bit more discerning than to tell us obviously fake shit like that. Well, let me just make sure. Let me check Twitter because you never know. No, I don't see anything like that on Twitter. It's quite possible he saw like a fake AI generated thing saying that was happening, but that did not happen. Just to be clear, Aiden Hutchinson did not get traded to the Broncos.
All right, because like he said that, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, so people do that occasionally. Like I've like in both your chat and my chat, people just randomly. Doesn't happen a lot, but every once in a while we'll get somebody saying some weird garbage in the chat. It's like, whoa, did that really happen? Then we look it up. No, that didn't fucking happen. What are you talking about?
Right.
So.
But that's how stuff though gets me paranoid because it's like, shoot, like their internet might be faster than mine, so I was like, oh, like it could happen in a minute, but then.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's not basically the way I see it, if it's not on Twitter, like at least as far as like latest, like nobody's talking about it on like the latest news tab on Twitter, probably didn't happen. Because Twitter, I'm not saying if you see it on Twitter, it did happen. I'm saying if you didn't see anybody even discussing it on Twitter at all, it probably didn't happen because Twitter's always like the first one to know that something big happened. There's also a lot of fake garbage on Twitter too. But if it did happen, Twitter will probably know first.
Yeah, well, this is what he told me. He said that the Lions receive Iwama Uwarziki, a 2027 first and 2022 for Aiden Hutchinson. But
Muzurike?
I don't. Names are stupid.
Yeah, I mean, he's a decent player, but no.
But like for Aiden Hutchinson, that would have been wild.
Well, Levi Muzurike is on the Lions.
Oh damn! I didn't know that.
Yeah, like he's been on the Lions.
No, Levi. Okay.
Oh, then who are we talking about?
Iwama Uwarziki.
Iwama Onwuzurike. We're probably spending way too much time on this.
Yeah.
I don't even. How do you spell Iwama?
EYIOMA.
Oh, Iwama Uwazurike. Okay, so it's not okay. It is genuinely a Denver Broncos player, but I see no indication that he is not currently on the Broncos.
All right, let's get back on track now, shall we?
Okay. All right. Well, so since we're in the AFC West, let's go to the Broncos.
Okay, Bronco time. The Because they got a brutal schedule. That's what I put down.
Sean Payton sucks.
That's not accurate.
I'm kidding. I actually have been like last year. Definitely, like kind of brought me around a lot on Sean Payton. I still have my criticisms of him, but you could have criticisms of every coach about anything, right? Like, but I'm definitely much more in the camp of Sean Payton is a very good head coach. I mean, I already felt like he was good for the Saints and everything like that, but clearly just a generally good head coach, regardless of what team he's on, because I feel like he did a masterful job with the Broncos last year.
Yeah.
But for me, the reason why the Broncos might suck this year, and they might really suck this year, and the reason for that is because we just don't know what's going on with Bo Nix yet. The last time I even saw Brandon Perna talk about Bo Nix, he was like, there might be some shit going on. Sounds like his recovery just hasn't really been as a deal as you want it to be. So even if he's ready to go week 1, it still might take, time for, especially all these like, pieces they brought in with like Jalen Waddle and all. It might take time for that offense to click. And Bo Nix might not be ready to go right away anyway. And they've got a rough end to this. Like the like the beginning of their schedule is tough, but the end of their schedule is real tough too. And so if they're one of those teams that I feel like if they don't get off to a hot start, they could really they could miss the playoffs, even though they really frankly should have been in the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
So I don't think there's really super deep we need to go with Denver, because it really all just kind of rests on Bo Nix.
Yep.
Raiders, why are they going to suck this year?
Man, Las Vegas Raiders. Okay. These Raiders are going to suck this season and make all their fans cry because of their roster depth.
The roster depth is the best you can come up with. Is the roster depth?
I mean, yeah, that was like, what else? I mean, it's not like they won 3 games last year or anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's probably the main reason. Because they're a bad team already.
Yeah, their depth is bad.
Although
they got great players and Brock Bowers, they got a good player in Ashton Jet. Like they're top of the team. They have some good studs, but like their depth overall. I mean, their wide receivers. I'm pretty sure I could try out for the Raiders right now and probably be like the number 2 wide receiver at least.
Yeah, probably not. But I did have the Raiders winning a weird number of games this year. I don't remember how many it was, but like, I think, but we'll talk about reasons why I think teams could be good in the next episode. But the Raiders, why they're most likely.
Next episode, we gotta still be on the negative side of the NFC.
There's a really good chance the Raiders could be bad this year because it's like it's the transition year, And what does sucking mean for the Raiders? Because like sucking for the Raiders probably means like the wheels just completely fall off and they finish like 3-14 or worse. And like all of the changes they made just were clearly like stupid garbage things. Ashton Genty regresses. Brock Bowers just isn't any good anymore. Max Crosby, being back on the team now, but he just completely falls off a cliff. Like stuff like that is their absolute worst case scenario. But I don't think that they're going to be like I think that if they're not competitive this year, that's not for them. That won't necessarily feel like sucking. But it could still be bad for them in the long run because like it's this year's a transition year and they've got Cousins and Mendoza. And obviously Mendoza's the guy and Kirk Cousins the transition, but the thing is like when does the transition happen? And does transitioning to Mendoza make a difference in the moment? And so it's kind of like I was talking about with Drew Aller, once he gets control of the team, if things don't click right away, that could be really disruptive to his development.
Right.
And with the Raiders, there's a lot of reasons to believe it won't click right away. I mean, just if anything, like just because of the team around him, if anything.
Right.
So I don't know. With the Raiders, like I think the Raiders have a little bit more promise than they have in a while, which is why I predicted them to win more games than Mikey did.
I predicted a lot of teams to win more games than I thought I was at the start. So.
Yeah. So the Raiders probably not going to be like a juggernaut this year, but there's a chance that they could be a pretty decent team and kind of build on some of the momentum. But if they don't do that, then it could really pile up on them quick and crash and burn fast.
Yo,
what's up?
Did you see the comment that Teddy just put in the chat?
In your chat?
No.
Oh no! Oh yeah! I actually just got. This is another instance where I got a bunch of messages all at once. So I just saw a bunch of people's messages come up, which I will get to in a second. But since you brought it up, let's see. Look for the Raiders to tie a game before they could win a game. Well, so you just gave us a reason why they're going to suck this year, and that's what this episode is all about. So we got one division left to do.
We've still got to do the Chargers.
Oh, so the reason the Chargers are going to suck this year is because nobody remembers they exist, as I just, showed you.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead. I'm having some weird indigestion right now, so I'm going to go grab some water. You tell the people about the Chargers real quick. I'll be back in a sec.
All right. So, people that are watching this show, hold on, let's see. Raiders try to win 6 to 7 games, maybe, or maybe not. But the Los Angeles Chargers is going to be sucky this year because they cannot finish close games, right? We've seen that plenty of times in the past where the Chargers and the same core get into the close games, right? But they blow it. The Los Angeles Chargers cannot close games. Whether that's Justin Herbert just not being ready for the moment, which he's been in the league since 2020. But regardless, whether he's just not ready for the moment, whether the defense just can't ever get itself together, it don't matter what it is. The Chargers can't finish close games. It's like a curse. Y'all believe in curses, right? The last Chargers tie was October 3rd, 1964. Well, that's good to know. I'm probably not going to remember that, but that's good to know for now. So, yeah, Chargers can't close no games, man. They can close a game just as good as I can tie my shoes, and I can't tie those shoes, man, because the Chargers can't close the games. They can't finish the games. They can't finish close games. All right.
True. So just for my own sake, give me like a 10-second recap as to what you just said about the Chargers. Because I missed pretty much all of that because I was getting water. So give me like a 10-second recap of what you just said about the Chargers.
Los Angeles Chargers cannot finish close games to save their life.
That was your whole argument?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's a fair point. That is definitely a fair point.
Terrible take. Look, yeah. Okay.
Right, Ashley.
Okay, don't get me wrong. Yes, they win a couple close games. We just yapping. They win a couple close games. But what about the Texans game last year, huh? What about that game? What about there was also a few games, right? Like they played against Atlanta one time, right? They almost took that game away, but Atlanta choked it more. Like they played the Saints a few years ago. Choked the game away with Justin Herbert. Like, come on, the Chargers be choking. All right, now you continue.
Okay. We just Yappin says terrible take. I'm guessing she's talking about you.
She is, because you haven't given your take yet.
Well, right, and also like you were the only one talking since like Teddy's comment, and she's commented since then, so it must have been. So the Chargers, let's see. So she said Eagles, Broncos, Chiefs, 2x. That's 4 close games just last year. There's a false narrative, and I think that's what you were responding to earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Chargers. I am one of the bigger Justin Herbert skeptics out there. I always kind of have been. So my whole thing is that I just don't really see Justin Herbert as a quarterback who is really capable of truly carrying his team. He's very talented, does really great things a lot at times, but it just really hasn't translated to a ton of success for the Chargers when it works. And then also often it doesn't work. And at this point, there's just, I mean, yes, the, not finishing close games and stuff does matter, but there's reasons why that happens. And, there's a lot of potential variance for the Chargers this year because they had a bit of a youth movement, and these guys could work out just fine. But over the last couple of years, they've had a bit of a youth movement, and these guys could work out just fine. But it's also possible that there could be some growing pains this year. They've got a pretty tough schedule near the end of the year, so it could be another one of those things where like the Chargers look like a team that's going to do something and then they kind of fall off at the end of the year. But I have a lot of questions about a Justin Herbert led team in 2026, and I'm just not sold. Like I will say it is kind of hard to come up with reasons why the Chargers will suck, because what does sucking mean? That's really the question with a lot of these teams. So like, I don't really foresee too many situations where the Chargers are potentially going to go like 3-14. Like I don't think the Chargers are going to have like a garbage season. But if sucking is like continuing to not really do anything, then like I think there's a lot of reasons you could say the Chargers are quite capable of continuing to not do anything.
Big facts.
Chargers have no cheerleaders, so can't be one myself. Interior OL defensive coordinator, the big question marks. Oh, that's the other thing. Losing Jesse Minter is like, I mean, that defense could take a big step back. That's part of that's like I was saying, like Jesse Minter being in year one for the Ravens might mean that, like I'm not foreseeing the Ravens being real garbage this year for any real reason, but like they might not really do what people think they're going to do because Jesse Minter being a first-time head coach, it most of the times doesn't work out in year one. Did for Matt LaFleur, but there's a little bit of a different situation. 8 wins would consider sucking. Well, if 8 wins is considered sucking, then I think the Chargers probably are going to suck this year, to be honest with you. Like I definitely foresee them going about like 8-9 or 7-10 or whatever. What did I say when I did my season predictions for the Chargers, Mikey? I don't remember what I said.
I don't remember. I just remember the terrible things they said.
Well, okay, I did say some pretty wild things, but with the Chargers, I don't remember what I said at all. But like, I just 7 to 8 wins seems like a definite possibility. Now, I mean, maybe they don't. Maybe they make the playoffs this year and then don't do anything in the playoffs. But I don't. The Chargers feel like a very stagnant team to me. And then on top of that, they're resetting on defense, so that can't be good. They just can't possibly be a good thing.
Right.
All right. So now we can move on to the AFC East, right?
South.
What did I say?
You said East.
Oh, yeah. That's what we started with, right?
We started with the East, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know why I said East.
I don't know why you did that either.
Okay. So South. Why are the Texans gonna suck this year, Mikey?
Man, the Houston Texans gonna suck this year, right? Because their old boy at quarterback, right? CJ Stroud. Man, he had a great rookie season. I'm talking about one of the best rookie seasons of all time. But then the sophomore slump hit. Then the third year woes hit. And now the fourth year foes might hit because that boy, I don't know if you saw this playoff game, right? But the dude threw 4 interceptions in the first half. This dude was gifted one of the This dude was gifted the most generational defense he could ever receive, and he still pissed it all away. And that's how bad this dude was in the postseason. So if he does that if he does that for a while, they're gonna be bad. Like I'm talking about, like so bad. So yeah, that's why they're gonna suck this year.
I think, just to be clear, it's pretty unlikely the Texans are actually going to suck this year. But the generational defense you just mentioned, I think, is one of the strongest arguments to make for why the Texans could at the very least regress this year. You know, whether that means they regress to being terrible or they regress to just, you know, maybe not making the playoffs or something like that. But it seems exceedingly unlikely that they're going to run it back the way they did on defense. And you know why they were so good on defense? A big part of the reason they were so good on defense because they had remarkable turnover luck last year, Mikey. I mean, they also had, you know, like really good play in certain areas, and they weren't all just a turnover luck team. I'm not saying their defense was actually garbage, hiding behind turnovers. But they were plus 17 on their turnover margin last year, and that's with CJ Stroud being kind of unpredictable. So that's just, it's really unlikely they're going to replicate that again. And if that takes even a little bit of a step back, you could see the Texans losing plenty of games that they would have won last year. And I think that could show how thin the margins really have been for this team, which just a couple of years ago, if you recall, was like one of the laughing stocks of the NFL.
Yeah.
Now, I do think DeMeco Ryans is a really good coach. I think the Texans have some promise right now, which is, you know, remarkable for how bad of a situation they were in not too long ago. But I also think that a lot of what made them such a dangerous team last year was not the most sustainable way to build, you know, a contender.
Big facts.
I think it was always going to crash and burn. And it also kind of seems like the Texans got worse on the offensive line, so I just don't see any world where CJ Stroud gets better this year.
I mean, it's not really, but this one.
And their offensive line already wasn't very good last year.
Right.
So I think, you know, the Texans are one of those teams that I could totally see being good this year. But I think there's a lot of things there that I'm like, man, if they don't get it right, it could really go south quickly.
No pun intended, but right.
You're farther south than the Houston Texans are.
But they play. I never said I wasn't.
All right. Let's talk about the Titans, the team that I famously predicted would win the AFC South somehow. Or did I predict that, or did I predict them to be like a wild card team? I think it might have been a wild card team.
Yeah, some of it. I don't know.
I didn't predict them to win the division. I don't think.
All I remember is that it was stupid. Anyways,
it was wild. It was. I surprised myself when I looked at my predictions. I was like, oh, I got the Titans making the playoffs. Oops.
All right. Well, the Tennessee Titans will not be making the playoffs no matter what this boy down here says. They won't be good. And I could eat 1,000 cheesesteaks and not get fat. Like, okay, it could happen.
It could happen because you could die.
Okay.
And then you wouldn't get fat because you wouldn't digest any of them.
All right. Dude, okay, that was a gross thing that I just did. Okay. Anyways, the thing the Tennessee Titans are actually going to suck this year because they have a rebuilding roster. Cam Ward and Carnell Tate. They ain't going to be cooking year one. They ain't going to be on a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase level, like how that started out the gate, because Carnell Tate is nowhere near that caliber and Cam Ward's nowhere near that caliber. Like, could they be good? Yes. But I'm trying to be negative. So I'm going to be negative. They have a rebuilding roster, and that's why. Okay.
I mean, I very much agree with your reasons why the Titans will suck this year is because they have a rebuilding roster. There's like, I mean, I do believe the Titans have more potential this year than a lot of people are giving credit for. But there's also very good reasons why people are not giving the Titans credit right now, because they just, until proven otherwise, they do suck. So that's why they'll suck this year, is because they kind of already do.
Yeah.
I mean, Cam Ward, famously said, "We ass."
He did say that.
Until they're not ass anymore, they're still ass.
Yeah.
They have yet to develop any sort of identity. I thought that, I saw a few flashes that they could build on this year, but how long does it take them to actually do the building? It feels like the most likely good scenario for the Titans this year is they're going to be. It feels like their most likely good scenario, not top end, because I already said I think they could make the playoffs, but they're like the most likely good scenario for them is probably what we said about the Dolphins earlier, which is that, well, it ain't gonna turn over this year, but maybe they could be a really obnoxious, annoying team and use that to build on, on next year.
Right.
I mean, they've got some interesting talent there, but it's just like, until we see otherwise, it's just not really possible to project that this team is going to be good until we see them actually be good for once.
Big facts.
Missed the Texans take, but any chance that defense falls off a bit and can't carry the offense? Well, that was, so for me, that was my Texans take, was the defense. Why the defense was so good last year was largely in relation to how insane their turnover margin was, and that doesn't feel super sustainable to me. So it feels like the defense could take a step back. I still think that defense will be really good, but that defense could take a step back, and if that offense doesn't improve, which seems possible because like their offensive line seems to have taken a step back and it was already not good. So if the defense isn't just dragging them to wins constantly, they're going to need their offense to step up. And I have not seen a reason yet to believe that the offense necessarily will step up.
Big facts.
Okay. So then we got
Stroud, is,
yeah, but that's kind of somewhat related to what I said too. So, it's really just all on, it's all on that. It's kind of like they're like the Uno reverse of the Bengals, right? Because the Bengals had a ridiculously elite offense last year, although how good the Bengals offense last year was probably more sustainable than how good the Texans defense was last year. So it's maybe not an exact one-to-one comparison, but it's still that idea that defense was just dragging the team to competency of any form, and the offense just kept like letting them down. And so it's like the opposite of what happened with the Bengals. Colts professor, who has a Pikachu in his profile picture, who I haven't seen before, by the way. So welcome to the channel if you're new. Says Colts going to go 8-9.
Honestly,
that's not a very happy thing to say. But let's move on to the Colts. Why are the Colts going to suck, Mikey?
All right. The Indianapolis Colts are going to suck because of the quarterback, man. And look, I understand Daniel Jones. I understand he had his magical little run last season until he got hurt. But that's exactly my point. He got hurt. I don't think it's going to be 100%. And when your quarterback not 100%, your offense ain't 100%. And when your offense ain't 100%, you ain't winning that many games. So the quarterback development, whether you want to call it development or not, I still think Daniel Jones is still a quarterback development. It's just all bad. Okay, maybe not all bad, but 85% bad.
It would be all bad.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my Colts take.
Okay. My Colts take is actually very similar. Why are the Colts going to suck this year? Because I'm just not sold on Daniel Jones. He looked really good when he was on the field for the Colts last year. But that was an anomaly as far as his career so far goes. Like, is he going to be that again if he stays healthy? And then that's the other question is he going to stay healthy? Because over the last 3 years, part of the reason that the Giants gave him an extension and then also moved on from him, is because of the last 3 years. We talk about Joe Burrow and his injury history all the time. But Joe Burrow's injuries haven't changed his play. Daniel Jones, over the last 3 years, he just tore his Achilles. He fractured his fibula right before he tore his Achilles. And prior to that, he tore his ACL right after coming back from a major neck injury. Or at least a moderately major neck injury. So, people talk sometimes about how, like, mobile quarterbacks, their play style can be very heavy wear and tear on their bodies. So Daniel Jones already has got a pretty serious injury history. And with that play style that he has, it just seems like it's very likely that he's just not really like that really magical little, like, oh my God, Daniel Jones is actually, like, Indiana Jonesing there with the Colts. Like, it seems like that's going to be a major outlier in Daniel Jones's career. And it seems very likely he's just not going to do that again. Like, maybe ever. So, like, I think Shane Steichen is a pretty decent head coach. I'm not elite, but I think he's a decent head coach. And I think he can manufacture some structure for the Colts. But I think there's a really strong chance that they could get really Jonathan Taylor dependent again, and the AFC's just gonna, like, they're gonna focus on stopping Jonathan Taylor, and then the Colts quarterback carousel is just not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, I mean, last season, and look, it was never going to happen because of how it is. But last season, there was a point where it looked like Jonathan Taylor might have been MVP. So, I mean, like, it was never going to happen because MVP is a quarterback award. But there was a point where.
But the thing is when you've got a running back, and to at this point an aging running back, in the modern NFL, when you've got an aging running back as the only identity that your offense really has, which is isn't what the Colts are, but is what the Colts could become, that's a recipe for disaster.
And yes, Lou Anarumo does suck.
Lou Anarumo is fucking garbage. I don't even know if he's a half-assed defensive coordinator. I don't know. Like, he's like a fucking black hole where his ass should be, probably. Lou Anarumo, look, dude, I liked some of the stuff that Lou Anarumo did here in Cincinnati. I was constantly on this show, and Mikey can attest to this because he's been here for a while. I was constantly heavily critical of Lou Anarumo throughout his entire tenure in Cincinnati. There's like one little bit where I'm like, oh, you know what? Well, maybe Lou figured something out, and if he did, you know what? I'll throw my hands up and kind of get out of the way because it's whatever it is, it seems to be working. But it was a fucking fluke. Lou Anarumo does not develop anybody ever at all. Yeah, you can cuss Colts because I don't fucking care. The only rule that I really have here is don't start levying personal attacks against other people. That's the only rule I got on my channel. I don't know about Mikey, but I curse enough on this show that I can't imagine Mikey's gonna ban the chat from cursing. And then also you're in my chat anyway.
Right.
Lou Anarumo is absolutely delusional. He's and a lot of Bengals fans last year, when our defense was bad and the Colts got off to a decent start with their defense with Lou Anarumo, a lot of Bengals fans and a lot of people across the NFL were like, oh my God, Lou Anarumo wasn't the problem, huh? Maybe they should have fired Zach Taylor's bum ass instead of Lou Anarumo because Lou Anarumo was clearly the best. That pissed me off so much. Like, no, Lou Anarumo is an idiot who doesn't know how to fucking develop anybody. And the reason our defense is so bad right now is because Lou Anarumo never developed anybody. The only time Lou Anarumo had a functioning defense is when it was all veteran guys that he went out and got who already basically knew how to play football. And Lou Anarumo is legitimately a very good X's and O's guy. So if he's got guys who are already good at football, then he can basically come up with really interesting schemes on and this is why he's an NFL coach, because he can take guys who are already good and, you know, basically come up with ways to make them make big impacts in the game. But the problem is, as soon as you don't have, like, you know, the basically like everybody playing at the absolute top of their game on defense, Lou Anarumo gets exposed like fucking crazy. And it's driven me insane with it throughout his whole career, because I was screaming for Lou Anarumo to get fired after his first season here. Well, 3 games probably into his first season.
No, you were not.
What was his first season here?
His first season was 2021 when they made the Super Bowl because of the defense was not as bad.
No, it wasn't.
Well, that's
his first season here. His first season here was 2019. He came here with Zach Taylor. The only reason we had Lou Anarumo as our defensive coordinator is because we were such a fucking toxic, like nobody wanted to come to Cincinnati. You know, we it was Jack Del Rio. We almost got him to come in, and he was just like, I don't really want to mess with the Bengals. And it was like we couldn't get anybody to actually agree to come be the defensive coordinator in Cincinnati, because we were seen as such a toxic scenario, because you got this unproven head coach and Zach Taylor coming in after the Marvin Lewis era crashed and burned, and the Bengals front office has this reputation for just being really bad and hard to work with and stuff. So nobody wanted to be, which they can be, yes, and it's fair to be true. But nobody wanted to be our defensive coordinator. So like Lou Anarumo was basically the only guy who said yes. And also he had a connection because him and Zach kind of took over on an interim basis for the Miami Dolphins, I think, after Joe Philbin got fired. They didn't last very long there, but, you know, they were kind of like co-managing the team. So that's why Zach hired Lou Anarumo here. But also it's because Lou Anarumo was the only guy who agreed to do it. And the defense just could not, like, he couldn't get anything going with this defense until the Bengals went out and they spent a shit ton of money in free agency ahead of that Super Bowl run. And then suddenly Lou Anarumo is like a defensive genius. And it, like, I think Eli Apple called him like a wizard or something like that.
Boo! Rotten Tomato! Boo!
Okay. But my point being, my point, I just said the man's name.
Boo!
Okay.
You don't say that man's name around here.
But that it's a good point. The Tech Holtz professor, Lou Anarumo, is probably a big reason why the Colts are going to suck this year, because you can't just have proven defensive like free agent sign in free agency every year and just like build eliteness out of the ground because you went and spent a shit ton of money. And like some of those guys are going to fall off, and then you got to have guys come and replace them. And Lou Anarumo has no idea how to get that done. Lou Anarumo is a fucking idiot. And I said when the Colts hired him, I'm like, good luck, Colts. And everybody was trying to tell me, oh, you guys are going to get it even worse because Lou Anarumo's gone. And that did happen, to be fair. But the Bengals defense got a lot worse. But it was because Lou Anarumo didn't develop anybody, and he set us up for failure. That defense would have been just as bad if Lou Anarumo was still here.
I mean, the Colts almost hired Dennis Allen to be their DC.
You've heard me and I've had a lot, not as many rants as you against Dennis Allen, but I've had my rants against Dennis Allen. I would take Dennis Allen 100 times out of 100 over Lou Anarumo.
Oh, absolutely.
Dennis Allen, frankly, has had a lot of defensive success in the NFL. Like, even though you might not agree with his philosophy, and you know he's clearly not ready to be an NFL. He's not head coach material, and Dennis Allen's got a lot of issues, but he can do the job on defense, and I just don't think Lou Anarumo can.
Look, here's my thing with Dennis Allen, okay? Was he a good head coach? Heck no. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, I could have been a better head coach on Madden than he could have been coaching the Saints. Like this dude was bad. I'm pretty sure Stevie Wonder could have been a better head coach. Like, that was bad. However, one thing I can't deny, when he was a head coach, the defense also fell off. But when he was strictly only focused on the defense, the Saints had top 10 defenses, top 15 defenses. But then, like last year with the Bears defense, like, to be honest with you, though, the Bears defense was not great last season. Like, the only thing that they were great at was forcing turnovers. But if you did go away the turnovers, their defense wasn't great last season. But, I mean, I would take Dennis Allen as a DC over Lou Anarumo. And that's me not being biased, because you know how much I hate that man.
Yeah, exactly. I still believe that Sauce Gardner could end up working out for the Colts, because Sauce Gardner is exactly the type of player that Lou Anarumo knows how to use, which is a guy who's already good at football, so he basically just like lets him go out there and do whatever, and then he's good at scheming things up with guys who already basically know what they're doing, which to an extent you could argue is probably what you should expect out of most guys in the NFL. The problem is that's just not the reality. The reality is partly because the NFL is so focused on keeping everything young, partly because the teams just don't want to pay guys as much. And if you got all young guys, it's a lot easier to not pay them as much. But then in addition to that, guys also fall off at a certain point. So teams are always trying to make sure that their roster stays young. That way they're staying as far away from the drop off as much as they can. And so like, you in theory you should be able, like as far as the NFL goes, you should be able to just have guys who know what they're doing a lot, and Lou Anarumo style should work a lot better than it does. The problem is it doesn't work that way. You get a handful of guys in the NFL who are really elite and great at being professional and effective and all that, and then you get a bunch of other guys who you just have to make work.
Right.
So And Lou Anarumo's just not great at making guys work. That's the issue. But as far as Sauce goes, yeah, like he definitely didn't work out for the Colts last year, but I think he still could, because he's still a very good player. And as soon as, like, Lou Anarumo probably will figure out how to use him specifically. That doesn't mean the rest of the defense is going to get better, but I think Sauce might himself get better.
Big facts, man.
And to answer your other question to Colts Professor, did you guys bring up how Aaron Rodgers is going to get the fuck smack laid on him? I did not. That wasn't really my point about the Steelers at the time anyway. Like, I had a lot of points about how Aaron Rodgers could be the reason why the Steelers suck and completely implode this year to a level that's just like going to make them completely, as a whole organization for years, they could be very bad going forward. And Aaron Rodgers getting sacked a lot, which is what I assume you mean by that, was not necessarily one of those reasons. But I mean, that could have something to do with it. I mean, like, if he gets the fuck smack laid on him and then he gets hurt because of it, and then he just basically quits on the team after that, then that's basically, that's the gist of what I said, just including the part where he gets, hit a lot.
Big facts.
So yeah. Is that everybody? Jaguars.
Man, Jaguars, and I'm not gonna lie, I generally do think they will suck this year. But yeah, with Jaguars, I think that offense is just too inconsistent. Like, I don't like their offense. I just don't like. They lose Travis Etienne, right? Travis Hunter, he's having a position crisis. We don't know what he is. Trevor Lawrence, the jury's still out on him. I understand he had a good year last year, but like, he also had a good year 2 years ago. Then he followed it up with the stinker. And then at the wide receiver position, you got Brian Thomas. He didn't do nothing last year. Jacoby Myers, he's hit or miss. Like, I don't like their offense. I think it's inconsistent. They're tied at Brandon Strange. He had a good year last year, but can he keep it up? I don't know. I think the Jaguars' offense is too inconsistent, especially since they didn't add any running backs to take over the loss of Travis Etienne. So that's just mind-boggling in itself. Like, they didn't draft anybody early. They didn't sign anybody. So it's like, I don't know what to think of this team other than they will suck, because that offense is too inconsistent.
Mikey over here still insisting that Travis Etienne is like the GOAT of running backs of all time.
Dude, okay, I'm not saying that. The man had 1,100 yards last year and 13 total touchdowns. Like, come on, we're not acting like this dude's a bum.
Oh no, he's not a complete bum, but I do think
he's not a bum at all.
Well, no, I think Travis Etienne has a lot more potential than what he's lived up to in the NFL. That's what I'm saying.
Like, great potential.
I think he could have done a lot better than he did with the Jaguars, and maybe that's the Jaguars
last season.
What?
The man had the most explosive runs last season, and that's not a lie. You can look that up yourself if you want.
And 1,100 yards, which is good, but it's not great.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. Like
Travis Etienne was a great running back,
but what I'm saying is he should have been.
Okay,
so that's my concern. With him is that he's just not like why he's solid but not as good as he should be. Is that the Jaguar? It might be the Jaguars' fault, you know. Maybe
that offensive line was bad too. Like we're just gonna ignore that part.
We're not gonna ignore that part. That's my point. Like maybe it is the Jaguars. Maybe it works out better with the Saints.
And it will.
But I just what I keep laughing at is they like. Y'all didn't really do a whole lot this offseason, and then you signed Travis Etienne, and you're like, wow, that's the big one. And so, yeah, that's the big swing there is Travis Etienne.
We did a lot in free agency in the draft. What you talking about?
At the time, you hadn't.
We signed him the first day of free agency. So what do you mean?
I don't remember. There was something we were talking about at the time. You're right. It was like the first day of free agency, but there was something we were talking about at the time where you were like, yeah, man, I just like this. The Saints. There's really a whole lot of nothing coming out of the Saints lately, and not that you were being pessimistic, but it was just like the Saints kind of feel like there's a lot of dead weight or like dead.
What we're talking about because that was like the
first and then Travis Etienne happens. It's like, wow. Travis Etienne, that's a decent signing, but you were like, oh my God, Travis Etienne is going to change the game.
Okay, I never said that. What I did say, though,
I'm paraphrasing. You didn't literally say that, but that is what essentially you.
What I did say though is like we don't need Travis Etienne to be elite. We just need him to be fringe top 10 at least, which I think he could be. Like Travis Etienne, we just yapped and said, I don't think he's gonna go off in New Orleans. He went off. Like, did we not see how a running back can change Jacksonville last season or 2 years ago? They won 5 games and Travis Etienne was nowhere to be found on the field. The next season they won 13 games because Travis Etienne scored 13 total touchdowns and 1,100 yards. Like that just does not happen.
That's also got a lot to do with Trevor Lawrence showing up that year too.
Trevor Lawrence, was he good? Yes. But
also specifically, was he not good the prior year?
Yeah, and Trevor Lawrence also was not good the prior year either.
That's my point.
That's my point.
No, that's my point about Trevor Lawrence. That's my point about Travis Etienne is is that like that was some of Travis Etienne getting better, but that was also some of the fact that he his quarterback wasn't garbage.
Yeah. But I don't know if you know or not, but a lot of elite running backs need their quarterback not to be garbage.
I left Jonathan Taylor.
Daniel Jones was one of the best quarterbacks when Jonathan Taylor was going off. And Jonathan Taylor wasn't doing a whole lot after that.
Daniel Jones is one of many quarterbacks that Jonathan Taylor has had in his career, and he has had a great career.
Well, there's a difference. Jonathan Taylor's an elite running back. I never said Travis Etienne was an elite running back. I said he's fringe top 10. With the top 10 ability. Like, he has the ability.
Oh, absolutely. Ability to be top 10 for sure. I just don't see him getting there.
Like, I mean, the dude, if we want to talk about explosiveness, the man had the most 20-plus yard runs of any running back that played football last season. Yeah. The dude had 1,100 yards, which I think ranked top 15 at the very least. The man had 13 total touchdowns, which probably was top 10. Probably maybe even top 5 for him. So Travis Etienne, y'all can crap on him all y'all want to. The reality is Travis Etienne was one of the best running backs in football last season. And Jacksonville won all them games. Not just because of Trevor Lawrence, and not even just because of Travis Etienne, but Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence were able to collide that offense. And Travis Etienne leads Jacksonville, and I guarantee you, Jaguars falling off this season. And come back to this episode when that happens. I guarantee you.
Okay, so you put me in a difficult position here because I do kind of agree that the Jaguars are going to fall off a bit this year. I don't necessarily think they're going to suck, but they could, and I'll talk about why here in a sec. But I don't think they're going to suck because they don't have Travis Etienne anymore. I think Travis Etienne was a useful part of their offense, and I think Travis Etienne, talent-wise, is maybe top 5 in the NFL. I mean, talent-wise, that dude has so much potential. I haven't seen it with him for the most part. Like, yeah, he was productive last year, but productivity and flash are two different things.
But that's all you need. I mean, we saw Jacksonville. They weren't like, if Travis Etienne was elite, they could have won like 16-1. But he was just productive, and they went 13-4.
Yeah, and it was, and they. I agree. He can be a good part of an offense. The way you were talking about him at first, or at least your excitement level, indicated that you just got Saquon.
Is it a crime to be excited for a good pickup?
You were more excited than I would expect out of Travis Etienne.
I am excited because this dude was the best running back in free agency, and we signed him.
It was a weak free agency class.
I don't give a dang. I don't care. Let me ask you a question. If, like, in 2020, right, when Tom Brady was a free agent, if you sign Tom Brady but the rest of the quarterbacks are mid, are you going to be like, well, that was just a weak free agent class? Come on.
But you're not signing Tom Brady. You're signing Travis Etienne.
You're signing the Tom Brady of running backs right now.
No, you're not. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. Travis Etienne is a mid running back who is, yes, he's a mid running back who's got like high end talent.
Man,
he's basically a Steelers running back.
Man, what?
Travis Etienne is Najee Harris, essentially, was what I'm saying. With completely different playing style, to be fair.
Najee Harris be running like he has concrete in his shoes.
Well, especially now, but he was the
Steelers. He was running like
first with the Steelers.
He was running like he had hands for feet.
He was productive at first with the Steelers, though.
And guess what? Travis Etienne was more productive than Najee Harris. I'm happy to be here. Technically, my ass. Travis Etienne was the best running back in free agency. I don't care what nobody says. He was better than Kenneth Walker because, like, if you take away, like, yes, was he great? Was Kenneth Walker good for the Seahawks last year? Yes, but they were taking the ball out of his hands to give it to Zach Charbonnet. And then Charbonnet got hurt, and that's when Walker went crazy. Travis Etienne was the bell cow running back, and the dude was a freak of nature. So don't get me started by saying Travis Etienne ain't this. Travis, man, y'all going to see next year when the Saints have the best running game in football why Travis Etienne was signed.
Well, the other thing is, good Lord, Mikey. The other thing is nobody was talking about Kenneth Walker as one of the best running backs in football until last year.
Exactly.
So I mean, but that's my point. Like it was a weak class. The only other guy who was really like, you know, like a potential high end guy was Kenneth Walker, and Kenneth Walker is a guy who like had one really solid season, and other than that, has really not been like one of the absolute top guys in the NFL.
Hold on. Look, yes. I will agree with you. We just yapping. Tubin, he did get carries. He had 83 carries. I just mentioned Zach Charbonnet, who had 184 carries last season. That is a 101 difference. I'm talking about Kenneth Walker. who they gave the ball to Charbonnet 184 times, which is 100 more than Jacksonville gave the ball to Tootin. Like, yes, Tootin got carries. Every running back on every game, every number 2 running back gets carries. But in a sample size, Charbonnet had 100 more than Tootin. Like, it's not like Tootin had 155 and Charbonnet had 160. It was a 100 difference. Like, the scale broke at that point.
But a lot of guys got carries and looked good in Jacksonville's offense, other than just Travis Etienne.
Okay, and I understand that. But Travis Etienne, did the other running backs have 1,100 yards?
Well, no, because they weren't getting as many carries as Travis Etienne. But they might have gotten 1,100 yards.
And why? And okay, so why did they not get as many carries as Travis Etienne?
Because they don't have nearly as much talent as Travis Etienne.
Exactly.
And they also didn't like the Jaguars spent a high pick on Travis Etienne too.
Bingo.
But I'm no point did I ever disagree with you. I think that Travis Etienne, if he were to actually hit his level of potential, could be one of the best running backs maybe of all time. He's just never actually hit that level. And I don't see any reason why he's going to suddenly now. We just yapping.
I have a question for you. So you said there's a reason why the teams let them walk. Okay, let me ask you a question. Back in 2019, right? And I used this example already, but I can use this all day. In 2019, did the Patriots let Tom Brady walk just because? Like, why did the Patriots let Tom Brady walk?
Not even remotely.
Oh, well, when the greatest quarterback of all time, when he walks, that just happens.
The Patriots let Tom Brady walk because Tom Brady wanted to walk.
And so did Travis.
And yes, that's part, but it's not the same scenario at all. Tom Brady
Travis. The Jaguars are going to pay Travis, but they costed too much money because that's the level of production that he was running at.
Not even remotely. But you could say the same thing about every free agent of all time who's
that's
gone.
My point. That's my point.
But that's why you compare him to Tom Brady when it's not the same even remotely. Even if we're saying that, like, okay, first of all, we want to talk about talent. Talent-wise, Travis Etienne has like 50 million trillion times more talent than Tom Brady. Talent does not necessarily make you a great football player.
Okay, I understand that. But, like, you can't just pick when you want the thing to be the same. You can't just pick that. Because, okay, let me ask you this question. All right? Let me ask you this question. Why do you think there's a salary cap? Why do you think there's a salary cap? Or let me rephrase that question. Let me rephrase that question. What do you think salary cap does to teams?
Why do they say there's a salary cap, or why is there actually a salary cap? That's a different question.
Salary cap
get deep into that question.
Salary cap exists, and you know what happens when the salary cap does its little thing? Guess what? You've got to pay people, and it's going to get to a point where you can't pay everybody. And Travis Etienne, like, I don't know if you remember, but Jacksonville, they didn't pay nobody. You know why? Because they didn't have that money. They didn't have the moolah. So Travis Etienne, exactly, for competitive equality. Travis Etienne walked. You know why? Because Jacksonville could not afford him. The Saints paid him $51 million. You know why they did that? Because that's something Jacksonville could not afford.
Here's the thing, Mikey. The salary cap, as the New Orleans Saints have proven in the past, is fake. It's not real.
I don't care what you say. I care what I say.
If the Jaguars wanted to pay Travis Etienne, they could have paid Travis Etienne.
Why?
They could have manipulated the money. They could, like, teams do it all the fucking time. Even the Bengals are doing it now. Like, if the Bengals are doing that, goddamn sure Shad Khan can do it.
Uh-huh.
As a Saints fan, you should know all about that shit.
I trust me, I know.
Y'all are basically like a city full of accountants at this point.
All right, man. Look, dude. All that matters is that Travis Etienne, like y'all gonna see, y'all gonna see, and remember this conversation too. Remember this conversation, because I'm forgetting this conversation.
Yeah, I'll remember this conversation, and then in a year, when that doesn't happen, I'm going to bring this up, and you're going to be like, I wasn't saying that. I was saying this other thing that wasn't what I was saying, because you said the same shit about Derek Carr.
When Travis Etienne runs for 1,300 yards this season, I'm going to remind him.
As you should, if that works out. I want to be absolutely clear about my position on Travis Etienne, in that I think that he could be very good. I think he has probably like top 5 talent of the running backs in the NFL. And I think that is a very smart addition by the Saints. I'm just saying the reaction that you had was like, y'all just went and got Saquon Barkley.
Dude, when Saquon was a free agent, he wasn't like nobody was talking about him like that. Saquon Barkley looked like a maybe not a bust, but Saquon Barkley when he entered free agency with the Giants, and that proves my point right there.
Didn't. What are you talking about?
That proves my point right there. If Saquon Barkley is as good as y'all think that he is, why was he in free agency in the first place?
No.
No.
I was gonna say that's actually a fair point. That is a fair point. That actually does in this particular Tom Brady thing was not a good thing at all. But the Saquon Barkley thing that's fair. That actually that is a decent point in your corner on that one. Now the reason why Saquon Barkley was in free agency was basically because the Giants chose to pay Daniel Jones, and that clearly didn't work out for them.
And Jacksonville,
they had to pick one of the two. And you're right, Jacksonville did decide to pay Trevor Lawrence, but obviously the Giants were stupid for not paying Saquon Barkley too, and they could have done it with the accounting jumping jacks and everything like that. It could have been done. They chose not to do it because they wanted to play it safe, and it was a bad decision not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the case with the Jaguars, but I don't think that Travis Etienne was as important to the Jaguars offense as Saquon Barkley was to the Giants offense.
When Saquon had his best season with the Giants, they made the playoffs.
When Saquon had to be at an absolutely mind-boggling level for the Giants to even sniff the playoffs.
Exactly. And you could argue the same with Travis, because in Travis' best 2 seasons with the Jaguars, you want to know what happened? They made the playoffs.
Yes, but they weren't Saquon Barkley level seasons though. You could make just as much of an argument that the Jaguars offense actually functioning for once is part of why Travis Etienne was doing better.
Okay, look, I understand. Look, Saquon, he's in a whole nother tier. I understand he had that 2,000-yard season after he was a free agent. But, what my point is we can't sit up here and say the Giants chose the QB. Because, yes, did they do that? Yes, they do. But the Jaguars paid Trevor Lawrence just as much as Daniel Jones. And at the time, Trevor Lawrence was not doing nothing like that. He had some good years, but he was not an MVP candidate like he was last year. So don't get me, it's Trevor Lawrence. Of course he got paid. At the time, it looked like a dumb little contract.
I actually liked the contract that they gave Trevor Lawrence at the time. And I would argue that now I'm less sold on Trevor Lawrence than I was at the time.
Okay, you just said that the Giants had to go into a full rebuild after they got rid of Saquon. You don't think Jacksonville might not do the same? Jacksonville's been rebuilding with Travis Etienne. They just got to being good.
But that's my point, though. Saquon was the Giants mistakenly thought that basically what I said about Travis Etienne was true about Saquon, and it wasn't. And the Giants did have to go into a complete and utter rebuild, because the fact of the matter is that Saquon was the only reason they were winning, and that proved to be true later, and they basically had to completely punt on Daniel Jones because it was made so clear that that was not something that was going to work at all. And it could go that way with the Jaguars. I don't see any reason to believe. I haven't seen any reason to believe so far that like Travis Etienne was not the Jaguars' entire offense. Like he was a big part of it. He was a big part of it. He was a big part of it. And he was definitely a good piece. And the Saints very well could get a good piece. And if Travis Etienne meshes and actually fits into the system, then he could be a really good part of a really solid offense that the Saints could be building. There's a lot of ifs, though.
Okay, I understand that. But like we talk about ifs, guess what? Everything's an if.
Okay, so then why are we bothering to analyze anything anyway? Why are we doing this episode?
I mean, I always tell you, we look and we don't judge.
But we do. That's our whole job is to judge. That's why we have a podcast.
Exactly. So we're here judging.
We are, indeed. And my judgment of Travis Etienne is that I think that he is a player who this is nothing to do with the fact that he's on the Saints. This has everything to do with what I've seen from Travis Etienne so far. I was really excited about his potential coming out of college, and I thought he had the potential to be the best running back in the NFL without equal when he first got out. And then he just never really turned into that. At best he turned into a solid piece of the Jaguars offense, but how much of that was Saquon? How much of that was Travis Etienne really being as like huge for the team as he allegedly was, and how much of that was the Jaguars offense being competent and making Travis Etienne look better?
Look, Travis Etienne, and I said this, when the Jaguars sucked, Travis Etienne sucked. When the Jaguars were great, Travis Etienne was great. When Travis Etienne was good, Jaguars were good. You think it just fluctuates like that on a consistent basis? I'm just saying. Like, even in his rookie year when the Jaguars weren't good, Travis Etienne still had 1,100 rushing yards, and that's with Urban Meyer doing whatever he was doing. Trevor Lawrence not having a good rookie season. So, like, look, Travis Etienne had 1,100. Travis Etienne has had at least 1,000 yards 3 out of his 4 seasons. Like, look, and like, Travis Etienne is a good piece. Like, I don't know why people are acting like he's trash. He's not trash.
Well, I never said he was trash. I just said that I think you're hyping him up more than he should be.
Why should I not hype him up? He had 1,100 yards last season and had the most 20-plus yard runs of any NFL running back last year.
Doesn't mean it's going to translate.
Okay, so Saquon Barkley's not going to have 1,000 yards this year.
What?
Because he had 2,000 yards 2 years ago, but that's not going to translate anymore.
He's still on the same team.
Exactly.
What? Travis Etienne moved to a different team. What are you talking about?
So did Saquon.
A few years ago, but we're not talking about that.
I think we should, because people say, "Oh,
no,
this is going to
right at this moment we're not talking about is what I'm saying. Like we can say, you can say maybe we should, but we weren't. So you can't just bring things up like we were like talking about it this whole time because we weren't.
We just yapping. I literally said he was fringe top 10. I never once said he was top 8. I literally said he was fringe top 10. You see, now y'all putting words in my mouth. Like, Travis Etienne is like a fringe top 10 running back. That's what I've been saying.
I think he could be top 10.
That's what fringe top 10
I think
means.
if he was going to be top 10, he would have he would already be talked about as one of the best running backs in the NFL. And
okay,
he's not.
look,
he's had some productive seasons, but it's not the expectation for him for a reason.
Okay, I understand that, but like with how the Saints offenses ran, we don't need him to be elite. We don't need that. We just need him to be what he was in Jacksonville, productive. You know why? Because we got receivers now that can catch the ball. We got a good quarterback now that can throw the ball. We got a good offensive line that can block for this man. We don't need Travis Etienne to have 3,000 yards to win some games this year. But what we do need is him to be productive, which he was last season.
Hey,
like
listen.
America. Am I not right? Am I not right on that? Exactly. Thank you, Jester. Yeah.
Okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. If Travis Etienne has 3,000 yards, then you're going to go 17-0. Like
exactly.
That's just how math works.
But like, we don't need him to do that to win games this year. Like,
nobody. What? But you are right. You don't need he can be a useful piece of your offense, which is what I like. When we first had this discussion, my argument was that he could be a useful piece of your offense. The hype that you were putting out there was not, I foresee him being a useful piece of our offense. Your hype was like, we just got one of the best running backs in the NFL. Let's go. And I'm like, nah, that's a bit much.
That's not what Kyle, you got mad at me for saying this. This is what I said. Jaguars got nobody to replace Travis Etienne. Am I lying?
Well, no, they don't. No, that is true. The Jaguars definitely are worse for losing Travis Etienne. I agree with that. I didn't disagree with that. I didn't disagree with that in this because the only time you really talked about that much was in this episode, and at no point did I agree with your point about the Jaguars losing Travis Etienne being. I made fun of you a little bit because of the conversation we had like a few episodes ago, but I did not disagree with you that is a negative point against the Jaguars to lose Travis Etienne because he was working well with their team.
Yeah, that's what I said today, and then that's what got you riled up. So, and now let's see. So we just gave me a question about what I think Kenneth Walker's going to do. Look, I think Kenneth Walker's going to be good in Kansas City. I could see him getting like 1,100, 1,200 yards in Kansas City. But I do think Travis Etienne's better than Kenneth Walker, and I don't think that it's that crazy to say because the only thing Kenneth Walker can do, he can only run he's not a big pass catcher. Travis Etienne, as an overall running back, the dude can run and the dude can be in the backfield. He had 7 rushing touchdowns, but remember when I said he had 13 total? That's because he had 6 of them things through Trevor Lawrence.
I think that Travis Etienne and Kenneth Walker are like 1A, 1B. I think they're about the same.
Well, look, if Kenneth Walker can start catching passes, then, and hey, he has Mahomes now, so maybe he will. But, from what I saw in Seattle, he was – it's kind of and I'm not comparing these two. So before y'all get mad at me, because I know y'all going to, I'm not comparing these two. But it's kind of like Barry Sanders and Derrick Henry. Like Barry Sanders, he was a great rusher, but he was also pretty good at catching the ball too. Derrick Henry, he was not always sometimes he would catch passes, but he was not the biggest pass catcher. But the dude can run you over. That's kind of how I see these two. Or yes, Kenneth Walker can run. He can run through a guy. Maybe not that, but he can definitely run the ball. Travis Etienne, he can run the ball a little bit. He can also catch the ball and break your spine while you're chasing them through the air. So that's what I'm saying, comparing those two. All right?
I don't know about that, but
okay.
He's pretty good at a lot of things. I just don't really see him as particularly great at anything when he should be. He should be absolutely great and absolutely elite at a lot of things, and he just hasn't been.
Travis Etienne reminds me of a younger Alvin Kamara. People say, well, why does Kamara not get 1,000 rushing yards? Because Kamara was not schemed to get 1,000 rushing yards. He was never a bell cow running back.
I guess
Travis Etienne, he catch ball and Kamara catch ball.
I guess that's my problem though. Is I had really, really, really ultra high expectations for Alvin Kamara coming out of college, and that is about what my expectations were for Travis Etienne. I just don't feel that Travis Etienne was quite that level. At times he has kind of looked like it, but not consistently.
Cool.
Okay. But either way, we're probably getting way too into that topic right now because this is really more of a topic for when we do the why NFC teams will be good episode and we get to the Saints, that'd be better for that.
Hey, all the ones that brought this up, I just said that they didn't have anybody to replace them, and then y'all got mad at me for some reason.
Well, you're the one who reacted, first of all, but
you're the one that reacted.
That is also true.
I react off of reactions.
That's not true. Anyway, it's like 10:40, so we probably go ahead and wrap this up. You got anything else to say about any of these AFC teams?
Yeah. Well, hold on.
We were waiting till the end. We were waiting till the end. Like the Jags were the last team we were doing just yapping. I did forget at the end to get to them, but we did get to them. So
we did get to them. But yeah, I mean, all I'm gonna say is before y'all come after me with Travis Etienne takes, just remember this is the same guy that has the Titans in the playoffs. So like, come on, like I could have said this. I could have said worse things.
I was about to say the Saints are not an AFC team, Mikey, but okay, you brought the Titans in, fair enough. I also, when I had said that, I also recognized that the Titans thing was a bit much. I recognized that when I said it. And I didn't come in here being like, oh, I definitely think the Titans are making the playoffs this year. I just I went through the schedule and I think they could. I really do.
All right.
It would still take, and we're gonna do, so the next episode we're gonna do is why all the NFC teams will suck, and then after that we're gonna do why AFC teams will be good, and I'll probably get into a little bit more of then why I think the Titans have potential this year. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen. It just means that when I went through all the games and I picked them, before we even got into training camp, I was like, oh, I think it's quite possible the Titans could have a good season this year. There's a lot of things that are going to happen between now and the end of the season. So, who knows? But I think it's not my gigantic hot take that the Titans are going to be a dark horse this year. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But do you have anything to say about any actual AFC teams who aren't the New Orleans Saints?
The Saints aren't in the AFC.
That's my point.
I didn't say anything about the Saints.
Yes, you did. And then you threw in a little bit about the Titans at the very end. But you were mostly talking about the Saints.
Okay. Well, I will say this, though. I will say, I've had time to reflect, and I've had time to look at things, and I've had time to, because I've said some things, I've done some things, and you know what it made me realize? Man, the Cincinnati Bengals ain't making no playoffs, man, because Joe Burrow, he ain't going to beat the starting quarterback.
Well, that is indeed what this episode is about. So I'll let you have that one. But in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about why the Cincinnati Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl.
All right, I'll make sure to call off sick.
Okay. Then we'll just move the episode. What do you mean?
All right, I'll just call off dead.
Call off dead. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, that's going to be it for us tonight, guys. So appreciate those of you who are showing up. We've had a couple new people in today.
Hold on. We just asked the question: Hampton, Genty, or Travis Etienne? Well, Travis Etienne is clearly better than those two because those two haven't proven anything yet. At least Travis Etienne proved that he can be good.
So here's my thing. I think that all of what everybody believes Ashton Genty could be is what I believe Travis Etienne could be. Or at least that's what I did believe coming out of college, but I'm not sure about that anymore just because I don't feel that he really hit his potential so far in the
If I had to rank those three, it's Travis Etienne, it's Hampton, then it's Genty.
Well, I don't literally know nothing about what Hampton's going to be in the NFL because he hasn't played. But again, my whole point about Travis Etienne is the man's 27 and a running back. So I don't think he's going to be anything more than he's already been in his NFL career at this point.
Which is 1,100 yards?
Yeah, when things go perfectly. When things go perfectly, things going to go perfectly. Because Alvin Kamara is another guy who I think's got insane potential, and there's been a lot of him not living up to exactly what he should have been. Now, there's been also plenty of him doing that. He has had really good stuff for the Saints, but I just don't think Travis Etienne's the sure bet you think he is. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, shoot, if he runs for 1,100 yards, you can have my children. I don't care.
That's a weird thing to say.
I don't care.
That's a weird thing to say.
I don't care.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, we're going to get out of here. So I'll leave y'all, as always, with a Who Dey.
Who Dat?
Okay. So I hit the stop streaming button.